Chapter 2344. Lightning-winged Hao Yezhuowen did not see Lu Zhu among the corpses. What's going on? What happened here? Tang Ruqing shuddered when he saw the miserable corpses around the bone pillars. The Shao brothers did not look too good either. Zhuan took a deep breath and became even more vigilant. He felt that this island was extremely strange. Especially when his gaze fell on the bone pillar in front of him, he felt a dense chill, as if he was being stared at by a venomous snake that was secretly hunting for its prey. This is the soul-devouring island. Do not touch the bone pillar on the soul-devouring island. This bone pillar is not a reward, it will bring you death. A low voice sounded in Zhuowen's mind. The tone was full of warning. Zhuowen's eyes moved. He was not unfamiliar with this voice because the owner of this voice was the mysterious head. Zhuowen heaved a sigh of relief. It seemed that the mysterious head had been paying attention to his trial all this time. However, he also knew that the mysterious head had something to ask of him. It definitely did not want him to die here. After all, he knew the location of the mysterious head's left eye and heart. This fellow still needed him to obtain the left eye and heart. How could it watch him die in this trial? Senior, what should I do? This mysterious head had stayed here for so long. It definitely knew how to obtain the space-time key. When Zhuowen's words left his mouth, the voice fell silent. After a long time, the voice sounded again. The space-time key is guarded by that fellow. If you want to obtain the space-time key, you have to go deep into that fellow's lair. However, your strength is far from enough. Even if you have comprehended the space-time superpower, it is still not enough. The mysterious head sounded helpless. Who is the fellow you are talking about? Zhuowen asked. The master of the Bone Island. This island is that fellow's feeding ground. Its name is the lightning-winged Taotai. It has a huge appetite and can swallow anything. It is one of the 4 great ferocious beasts that the space-time master has reared. It is extremely difficult to deal with. The mysterious head said helplessly. Zhuowen knew that the mysterious head of the space-time master was probably the master of the space-time temple. However, he found it strange that the space-time master was actually raising 4 ferocious beasts. Moreover, from the tone of the mysterious head, it seemed that the 4 great beasts were not to be trifled with. How strong is the Thunder-winged Taotai? Zhuowen asked in a deep voice. The mysterious head said indifferently, the master of time and space's 4 great beasts are famous for their fighting prowess. Each of them is no weaker than an ordinary Tao-confirming powerhouse. However, most of their power has been sealed by the master of time and space. Their strength is probably around the Void Sky 9th Ascension realm. Zhuowen sucked in a breath of cold air. He hadn't expected the 4 fierce beasts to be so terrifying. Each of them was no weaker than an ordinary Tao-confirming powerhouse. Zhuowen knew that the strength of a Tao corroboration expert was above the Void Sky 9 steps, and their strength was extremely terrifying. Zhuowen couldn't even compare to a Void Sky 9 steps cultivator, let alone a Tao corroboration expert. What made Zhuowen feel even more bitter was that although the Thunder-winged Taotai had most of its powers sealed by the space-time master, its strength was still at the Void Sky 9 steps enlightenment realm. Its strength might not be much different from Mu Qinshue's. Although Zhuowen's strength was much stronger than before, he knew very well that he was still far from being a match for a Void Sky 9 steps cultivator if he encountered one again. Since the Thunder-winged Taotai had the strength of a life-enlightening realm expert, Yuan could only run away if he encountered the Thunder-winged Taotai. I advise you not to force yourself. Now that the Thunder-winged Taotai is not here, I can still use a divine ability to teleport you away. Otherwise, everything will be too late. The mysterious head began to persuade Zhuowen. Senior, please tell me where the Thunder-winged Taoyu's lair is and where the space-time key is in the Thunder-winged Taoyu's lair? Zhuowen asked. The mysterious head's voice faltered. Apparently, it was surprised that Zhuowen was overestimating himself. He knew how terrifying the Thunder-winged Taotai was, but he still wanted to take the risk. Do you know the consequences of encountering the Thunder-winged Taotai? Your waning sun above the sea divine ability is not very useful against the Thunder-winged Taotai. You are digging your own grave. The mysterious head's tone was a little agitated and even had a faint impulse to curse. Senior, I know this, but I said that I must get the space-time key. If you don't want to tell me, I will find it myself, Poen said lightly. The mysterious head was completely helpless against Yun. It snorted and said, "Take care of yourself. This is the location of the Thunderwing Taoye's lair and the space-time key. When you die, don't blame me for not warning you." After the mysterious head transmitted the location information to Zhuowen, it didn't say a word. It was completely silent. Zhuowen, on the other hand, was pleasantly surprised to see the additional information in his mind. He checked the information briefly and finally found out that the Thunderwing Taoye's lair was actually in the depths of the sea below the Bone Island. The information also mentioned how to get to the bottom of the sea below the Bone Island. The information even indicated that the Thunderwing Taotai came out to look for food at midnight and early in the morning. "Brother Zhua, let's go to the Bone Pillar now and see what the reward is." After discovering that there was nothing unusual except for the corpses around, Xiao Lang and the others became bolder. Among them, Xiao Lang couldn't wait to go forward and put his palm on the Bone Pillar. Zhuowen took the lead and intercepted Xiao Lang. Then he threw Xiao Lang to the back. Xiao Lang got up awkwardly and looked at Zhuowen in confusion. Zhuowen said in a low voice, "If you really put your palm on the Bone Pillar, you will die." In the information given by the mysterious head, it specifically mentioned that they must never touch the Bone Pillar in the center of the island. Because once the Bone Pillar was touched, it would immediately awaken the Thunderwing Taotai in the depths of the island. At that time, it could lead to a disaster. Zhuowen pointed at the corpses around them and said, "I'm guessing that these people became like this because they touched the Bone Pillars. It's best that we be more careful." Xiao Lang and the others were puzzled. Xiao Lang's eyes were filled with guilt. He really didn't think it through. The corpses were piled up, but he still did something stupid. "Let's find a place to use as a cave residence first." After saying that, Yuan led the group to stroll around the island. Then they found a bone cave in a rather remote place. Zhuan laid down layers of restrictions in the bone cave and set up an extremely concealed concealment array at the entrance of the cave. Only then did he stop. "I may have to go out for a while. Before I come back or send you a message, you must not leave the cave residence." After saying that, Yuan left the cave residence. Chapter 23:45. Luring the tiger away from the mountain after Zhuan left the cave, he waved his sleeve and summoned the black-clothed Zhuan. "Go to the center of the island." Zhuan ordered the black-clothed Zhuowen and went to the edge of the island. He looked at the gray, cold seawater outside, took a deep breath, and plunged into the sea. What hit him in the face was endless coldness. It was not the usual coldness, but the coldness of time. If an ordinary cultivator entered the sea, he would be frozen on the spot by the space-time rules of order. However, Yuan was different. He had mastered the space-time rules of order, so the seawater did not affect him much. Zhuowen continued to dive into the sea. The deeper he went, the stronger the coldness was. When Zhuowen entered the sea, he found that there was a bone pillar at the bottom of the island. It extended to the bottom of the sea. Zhuowen followed the bone pillar and dived down. After about 4 hours, he finally reached the end of the bone pillar, which was the bottom of the sea. There, an extremely large beast was lying on the ground with its eyes closed, as if it was sleeping soundly. The beast had the body of a goat and the face of a human. Its eyes were under its armpits, and it had the teeth of a tiger and the claws of a human. It had a big head and a big mouth. There were 2 enormous lightning wings on the beast's body. From afar, Zhuowen could see the lightning radiance emitting from the surface of the lightning wings, especially the aura emanating from this beast. Even though Zhuowen was far away, he could still feel fear. Zhuowen knew that it should be the Thunderwing Taotai that the mysterious head had mentioned. The Thunderwing Taotai was indeed one of the 4 great fierce beasts. Its aura alone made Zhuowen tremble with fear. It was not the first time that Zhuowen had seen a Taotai. When he was in the Heavenly Armor Continent, the Mount of the Chaos Temple's Master God was a Taotai. However, the Taotai bloodline of the Master God was not pure. Compared to the Thunderwing Taotai in front of him, the difference was like heaven and earth. Moreover, the Thunderwing Taotai had a pair of unique lightning wings. Obviously, the Thunderwing Taotai was a mutated fierce beast. Generally speaking, mutated fierce beasts were much more powerful than ordinary fierce beasts. Yuan was hiding in the distance. He did not act rashly. Instead, he carefully observed the environment around the Thunderwing Taotai. Suddenly, Zhuowen's eyes fell on the end of the bone pillar under the Thunderwing Taoye's chest. There was a green crystal at the end of the bone. This crystal was emitting an extremely rich life essence. Sensing the life origin from the crystal, the life Zhuon Taotai, the necklace Taoi, Yao Yao the crystal, the life origin was life origin, and the life origin was life death and life. However, the life force contained in the crystals embedded in the bone pillar far surpassed that of the necklace Yao Xiangjuan had given her. Recalling that the necklace that Yao Xiangjuan had given him had saved his life several times, his eyes suddenly blazed. If he could get the crystal that was filled with life origin, he would definitely be rich. At the end of the bone pillar, Huantai noticed a stone platform that was half the height of a human. On the surface of the stone platform, there were dense green light locks. Inside the light locks, there was a black key floating. The moment Zhuon Taotai saw the black key, he was shocked. He was too familiar with the black key. Wasn't it the space-time key that he was looking for? The space-time key is really here. Zhuon Tai murmured to himself excitedly, but he calmed down very quickly. He looked at the Thunderwing Taotai, whose eyelids were still drooping, as if it was in a deep sleep. However, he did not relax or lose his composure after seeing the space-time key. He knew that in order to get the space-time key, he had to lure the Thunderwing Taotai away. Otherwise, the space-time key could only be seen but not touched. At that moment, in front of the bone pillar in the middle of the bone island, Zhuon Taotai stood with his hands behind his back. He squinted his eyes and clenched his right hand into a fist, slamming it on the bone pillar in front of him. Immediately, a huge force erupted from the black-clothed Zhuowen's fist. Afterwards, the bone pillar began to shake violently, and the entire island began to shake as well. Yao Xiangju and Taotai and the others, who were hiding in the cave residence at the edge of the island, were shocked and unsettled. After Zhuon Taoye's punch, he did not stop. Instead, he punched the bone pillar again and again. For a moment, the frequency of the shaking of the entire island became even more terrifying. The explosion was like a muffled thunder. At the bottom of the sea, the Thunderwing Taotai, whose eyelids were drooping, suddenly opened its lantern-like eyes. In the depths of its pupils, there was a bloodthirsty rage. The Thunderwing Taotai spread out a pair of thunder wings. Countless thunderbolts were like countless angry dragons, spreading in all directions. Then, the Thunderwing Taotai swept toward the surface of the sea like a gust of wind. In an instant, it disappeared into the bottom of the sea. So fast. Zhuon Taotai looked at the remaining thunderbolts on the bottom of the sea in horror. The Thunderwing Taoye's speed was beyond Zhuon Taoye's expectation. It was even faster than teleportation. I have to get the space-time key quickly. The Thunderwing Taotai is so fast that Zhuon Taotai won't be able to escape for long. Zhuon Taotai realized the urgency of the situation and immediately went to the place where the Thunderwing Taotai had been. The remaining thunderbolts had not completely dissipated. When Zhuon Tai entered the place, he could clearly feel the numbness of the thunderbolts passing through his body. It was not a good feeling. Zhuon Taotai quickly walked to the front of the stone platform and looked at the countless light locks on the surface of the space-time key. His eyes were extremely solemn. The light locks were not simple. The way they were wrapped implied the rules of space-time. Zhuon Tai also noticed that the energy of the light locks came from the green crystal inlaid at the end of the bone pillar. The surge of energy in the green crystal was definitely something Zhuon Taotai had never seen before. If he were to attack the light locks recklessly, he did not know how long it would take for him to break them. If he wanted to break the light lock, he would have to suppress the energy source of the light lock. Thinking of this, Zhuon Taotai reached out his right hand and grabbed the green crystal. But soon, Zhuon Taotai was blasted away by a powerful energy. He could not help but retreat. Zhuon Tai looked at the green crystal inlaid on the bone pillar in horror and frowned. He knew that there was a powerful restriction on the surface of the crystal. With Zhuon Taoye's level, he could tell at a glance that the restriction was definitely set up by a powerful array master. If he wanted to break it, It would be impossible without a few days. But Yuan Taotai did not have that much time to waste. Kid, let me tell you something. You have to break the formation eye on the surface of the life crystal as soon as possible. The Thunderwing Taotai is too fast. I'm afraid it will come back soon. By then, you won't be able to leave. The mysterious head's voice rang in Yuan Taotai's mind again. Yuan Taotai was delighted. He did not have time to thank the mysterious head before he received all the information. After a while, Yuan Taotai opened his eyes. Then, he made a gesture with his right hand and pointed at the surface of the green crystal. Then, the formation eye on the surface of the restriction appeared. Yuan Taotai waved his right hand and immediately took out the beast bone array disc. He began to break the formation eye on the restriction. While Yuan was breaking the formation, the Thunderwing Taotai had already leaped out of the water. It stared at the black figure in the center of the island with fire in its eyes. Chapter 2346. Obtaining the space-time key. The black-clad Zhuowen's expression changed slightly. He snorted coldly when he saw the terrifying lightning. With a flip of his right hand, he summoned the phagocytosis. After Zhuowen's true body left, he gave the phagocytosis to the black-clad Zhuowen. The phagocytosis was King Devourer's most precious treasure, so it was much more powerful in the black-clad Zhuowen's hands than in his true body's. The phagocytosis expanded to 300 meters in size when it was summoned by the black-clad Zhuowen. It stood in front of the black-clad Zhuowen, completely blocking the terrifying lightning. Ever since the phagocytosis was fused with the second Dao fruit, the heavenly Dao rhymes within it had become even more powerful, and the power of the phagocytosis had also been greatly enhanced. The current phagocytosis's power had actually surpassed the sub-heaven-breaking divine artifact, and was close to the level of a Dao verification divine artifact. Zhuowen knew that if he fused the remaining 2 Dao fruits into the phagocytosis would reach the level of a Dao verification divine artifact. However, he also knew that if he wanted to fuse the remaining 2 Dao fruits with the phagocytosis, he would have to unlock more restrictions. The Thunderwing Taoyu's lantern-sized eyes stared coldly at the black-clad Zhuowen. Seeing that its attack had no effect, the anger in its eyes grew even more intense. Rumble! The Thunderwing Taotai roared. Its thunderous wings unfurled and folded, then it disappeared like a bolt of lightning. When the Thunderwing Taotai appeared again, it was already above the black-clothed Zhuowen. The Thunderwing Taotai opened its mouth and spat out a huge thunderball. The thunderball was unusual. Its surface was blazing lightning, but its interior was transparent like a glass ball. It wasn't an ordinary thunderball. Inside the thunderball was the terrifying law of spacetime. The black-robed Zhuowen could even see that when the thunderball was spat out by the lightning-winged Taotai, the surrounding space and time seemed to have stopped. Only the thunderball was moving forward slowly. As the lightning ball approached, the black-clothed Zhuowen realized that the time and space around him had completely stopped. The powerful binding force produced by space-time stagnation bound the black-clothed Zhuowen. It was as if an invisible hand was holding the black-clothed Zhuowen in its hand. The black-clothed Zhuowen's forehead was covered in cold sweat. He had a feeling that if he was hit by this lightning ball, he would definitely die. The fear of death invaded his mind, causing him to roar at the sky. Rumble! Countless beams of golden light burst out from the black-clad Zhuowen's body. Next, the black-clad Zhuowen's clothes were torn apart and his body expanded, revealing the true body of Devourer King. Roar! Devourer King's pair of golden eyes stared coldly at the lightning-winged Taotai in front of him. With a swipe of its golden claws, the phagocytosis in front of it was blown away. Golden marks burst out from the phagocytosis. Each of the golden marks had the power to destroy the heavens and the earth. As the golden marks blasted out, the binding space-time around Devourer King was broken. Then, Devourer King grabbed the phagocytosis with its claw. Its right hoof stepped on the air and disappeared like a gust of wind, plunging into the depths of the sea behind it. The moment Devourer King left, the mighty golden marks were completely destroyed by the thunderball. The lightning-winged Taoyu's ferocious eyes glowed. It felt a surge of power from Devourer King that made it excited. For countless years, only the other 3 ferocious beasts under its master could give it this kind of feeling. But now, it felt this kind of excitement from another exotic beast. How could it let go of this opportunity? Rumble! Rumble! The lightning-winged Taotai let out a low roar. It spread its thunder wings and instantly disappeared. After the lightning-winged Taotai and Devourer King left the Bone Island, Yao Xiangjuan, Tang Ruqing, and Xiao Lang, who were hiding in the cave, trembled as they walked out. The aura that the lightning-winged Taotai emitted was too terrifying. It was as if they were ants in front of the lightning-winged Tao. Who lured that beast away? I have never seen that golden giant beast before. Tang Ruqing said doubtfully. Xiao Lang and the other two shook their heads. Yao Xiangjuan, on the other hand, frowned slightly. She vaguely felt that the golden giant beast must be related to Jun. But now, Jun seemed to have evaporated into thin air. No one knew where he went, which made Yao Xiangjuan anxious and worried. While Yao Xiangjuan and the others were at a loss, in the cold depths of the sea, a white-robed young man was breaking the restriction with a serious look. Phew! Looking at the end of the bone pillar that had completely lost the restriction, Jun let out a sigh of relief. His eyes were filled with excitement. Jun held the green crystal in his right hand and pulled it out. Then, he quickly put it into his spiritual ring. Without the energy supply of the green crystal, the green light lock on the surface of the space-time key immediately dimmed. Zhuowen smashed the green light lock into pieces with a single punch and grabbed the space-time divine key that was inside it. I finally got the space-time key. It's really not easy. Zhuowen revealed a relaxed smile. In order to get the space-time key, he had gone through a lot of hardships. Save me. Just as Zhuowen was about to leave, a weak voice came and caught Zhuowen's attention. The voice came from the place where the lightning-winged Taotai was lying. It was the bottom of the sea. Zhuowen could still see the shape of the lightning-winged Taoyu's body in the mud. In the middle of the mud, there was an object that was wriggling. It was a hand that was constantly groping. Zhuowen's eyes flickered. He took a step forward, grabbed the hand and pulled it out. It was a clay figurine. Phew! The clay figurine knelt on the ground with its hands on the ground. It kept coughing and looked extremely miserable. Although the clay figurine was covered in mud and it was impossible to see its appearance, Zhuowen was able to guess the person's identity from the shape of the clay figurine. Ancestor Lu? Zhuowen said with a frown. Brother, can you help me? As long as you take me out, Shrine Lu will definitely not mistreat you, Ancestor Lu quickly said in a low voice. Ancestor Lu was actually a little aggrieved. He never expected that the young man in white in front of him not only passed the third level, but also went deep into the lair of the lightning-winged Taotai and obtained the space-time key and the crystal of life. How did you get in here? The lightning-winged Taotai won't be so kind as to not kill you, right? Yuan asked in surprise. Hearing that, Ancestor Lu's eyes flashed with a trace of humiliation. He stammered as if there was something he couldn't say. If you don't say it, I won't do it. You're on your own now. Yuan didn't bother with Ancestor Lu. Due to the pressure of the lightning-winged Taotai in the mud, Ancestor Lu was buried in the mud and couldn't break free. Chapter 2347. Poor Ancestor Lu, I'll tell you as long as you take me away. Ancestor Lu was afraid that Zhuowen would leave, so he immediately told him everything that had happened. After Zhuowen listened, his eyes became strange. He looked Ancestor Lu up and down, and the latter's eyes became even more humiliated. It turned out that after Ancestor Lu passed the third level with serious injuries, he entered the Bone Island. Naturally, he touched the bone pillar in the center of the island, which led to the Thunder Wing Ta. Ancestor Lu happened to have a lot of thunder stones, which were thunder attribute ores. It was a material for refining weapons, and it was also a favorite food of the Thunder Wing Ta. Relying on the thunder stones, Ancestor Lu was not killed by the Thunder Wing Ta. The Thunder Wing Taotai kept Ancestor Lu like a toy. Usually, it would press Ancestor Lu into the mud. Once it was bored, it would take Ancestor Lu out and play with him. It would also ask for thunderstones from Ancestor Lu as snacks. Until now, when the Thunder Wing Taotai was lured away by Zhuowen, Ancestor Lu was finally found and rescued by Zhuowen. Zhuowen didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Although the Thunder Wing Taoyu's strength was terrifying, Its mind was like that of a 7 or 8-year-old child. It was just a pity for Ancestor Lu. The dignified successor of the Lu Shrine was treated like a toy by a beast. Brother, you must save me. As long as you save me, the Lu Shrine will not mistreat you, Ancestor Lu said hurriedly. Zhuan didn't know about the so-called Lu Shrine, and he didn't care about the Lu Shrine's things. However, Ancestor Lu had no enmity with him, so it was understandable that he would save him. After all, he wasn't a cold-blooded person. Let's go, Zhuowen said indifferently. He grabbed Ancestor Lu's collar with his right hand and lifted him in a very humiliating posture. Then, he kicked off with his right foot and rushed towards the sea. Ancestor Lu's eyes flashed coldly, but he endured it. After all, compared to his dignity, his life was more important. But after a while, Nguyen jumped out of the water and landed on the edge of the Bone Island. The sound of water splashing also attracted the attention of Yao Xiangjuan, Tang Ruqing, and the other 4 not far away. The 5 of them immediately became extremely vigilant. However, when they discovered that it was Zhun, their expressions immediately relaxed. Brother Zhua, are you okay? Where did you go? Yao Xiangjuan hurriedly stepped forward, her beautiful eyes focused on Zhuowen, full of concern. She didn't notice that Zhun was carrying Ancestor Lu. Ancestor Lu was the first to notice Yao Xiangjuan. Seeing that Yao Xiangjuan didn't notice him and was instead looking at the white-clothed youth with concern, his heart burned with jealousy, but he didn't say anything. Go get something. Wait, I know how to leave this place. I'll open the exit. As he spoke, Yuan casually placed Lu Zhu on the ground and rushed towards the center of the island. Seeing Zhuowen's actions, Yao Xiangjuan noticed that Ancestor Lu was being carried by Zhuowen and asked in surprise, Ancestor Lu? Why are you with Zhuowen? Ancestor Lu forced a smile but didn't say anything. Seeing that Ancestor Lu didn't speak, Yao Xiangjuan ignored him and followed Zhuowen. Tang Ruqing, Xiao Lang, and the other 3 naturally followed closely behind. Soon, only Ancestor Lu was left lying on the ground like a dead dog. Damn it. When I leave this place, I'll definitely teach that bitch a lesson. As for that bastard, he actually dared to have designs on my woman. He even intentionally humiliated me. I will definitely not let him off. Ancestor Lu's eyes were cold, but when he thought of Zhuowen's words about finding the exit, he quickly propped himself up and walked towards the center of the island. Zhuowen stopped in front of the bone pillar and communicated with the mysterious head in his mind. He secretly said, Senior, I've obtained the space-time key, so I should have completed the trial. Now, tell me how to leave this place. Although you used a trick to obtain the space-time key, you can still be considered to have completed the trial. How about this? Place the life crystal you obtained into the bone pillar, and I'll connect to the exit for you. The mysterious head's voice transmitted into Zhuowen's mind. Zhuowen didn't hesitate. He took out the life crystal and pressed it against the surface of the bone pillar. Suddenly, a green light burst out, illuminating the white bone pillar. Then, Zhuowen noticed that the green on the surface of the life crystal was gradually dimming, and he couldn't help but feel his heart ache. The life crystal contained rich life essence, and it was extremely useful to any cultivator. It could even save a life at a critical moment. Now that the life essence on the life crystal was constantly being depleted, even Zhuowen felt reluctant. When a third of the green on the life crystal's surface disappeared, it finally stopped. Then, Zhuowen discovered that a green door had appeared on the surface of the bone pillar. Is this the exit? Tang Ruqing, Yao Xiangjuan, and the other 4 revealed expressions of joy the moment they saw the green door on the surface of the bone pillar. They had been trapped here for countless years, and they had never dreamed of being able to leave this place. Now that the opportunity to leave had presented itself in front of them, how could they not be excited? You guys go out first, Zhuowen said to Yao Xiangjuan and the others. Hun, what about you? Why don't you come with us? Yao Xiangjuan looked at Zhuowen in surprise. I still have some matters to attend to. You guys go out first, I'll catch up later, Zhuowen said with a smile. Tang Ruqing, Xiao Lang, and the other 3 hurriedly cupped their fists to express their gratitude to Zhuowen, and then entered the green door without any reservation. Miss Yao, why don't you go in? Zhuowen looked at Yao Xiangjuan, who still didn't move, and asked with a frown. Yao Xiangjuan's willowy brows furrowed slightly, and she said in a low voice, "Brother Zhua, is there anything else you need to attend to here?" "I don't think there's anything else." Just as Zhuan was about to speak, his expression changed slightly. Then, an earth-shattering roar came from afar, piercing through the sky. Just this roar alone contained an extremely terrifying power. Yao Xiangjuan's pretty face turned pale, and blood flowed out from the corner of her mouth and ears. "Is it that ferocious beast? Brother Zhua, come with me quickly. That ferocious beast is too terrifying. It definitely has the strength of the Void Sky 9 steps. You'll definitely die if you stay here," Yao Xiangjuan hurriedly said. However, just as Yao Xiangjuan finished speaking, Yuan had already swept in front of her. Then, Yuan gently pressed his palm on Yao Xiangjuan's fragrant shoulder. Yao Xiangjuan groaned and spat out a mouthful of blood. She looked at the white-clothed youth in front of her in disbelief, and then fell into the green door. The moment Yao Xiangjuan entered the green door, she saw with her own eyes that far away from the Bone Island, a giant ferocious beast with a pair of thunderous wings was rapidly approaching. Its target was the white-clothed Zhuan. At this moment, Zhuowen's back was facing her, and his head was slightly raised. A gentle breeze blew, and his shoulder-length hair fluttered in the wind. He stood stubbornly on the spot, welcoming the incoming giant thunderous beast. This scene eventually froze in Yao Xiangjuan's eyes. Then, she completely disappeared into the green door. Zhuan sighed softly, looking at the thunderous Taotai in silence. He knew that Devouring King had lost, and he had lost miserably. Fortunately, Devouring King's life aura hadn't disappeared. Apparently, the thunderous Taotai hadn't completely killed his clone. The Devourer King's clone was very important to Zhuowen. He couldn't allow that clone to die in this training ground. Chapter 2348. Escaper. The lightning-winged Taoye's ferocious eyes were spitting fire as it stared fixedly at the fleeing white-clothed youth. It could sense that the aura of the space-time key and the crystal of life were on this human. The human had stolen the things it was guarding. The thunder-winged Taoye's anger was surging like a volcanic eruption. It would not stop until it tore the detestable human into pieces. Zhuowen's gaze was grave as he watched the lightning-winged Taotai closing the distance between them. The lightning-winged Taoye's speed was unimaginably fast. The torch dragon wings on Zhuowen's body had long been perfected. His speed was absolutely unparalleled in the world. In addition, Yuan had mastered the space-time rules of order. Zhuowen's speed was naturally faster. Even so, the thunder-winged Taotai caught up with him easily. "No, if this continues, I will be torn to pieces by this guy before I can find my doppelganger." Zhuan took a deep breath and flicked his finger. He took out a palm-sized disc. The disc looked ordinary, but its surface was surrounded by rich space-time power. The disc was the space-time wheel that Tang Ruching helped Zhuan to refine using dozens of space-time wheel core components. The space-time wheel's speed was unparalleled in the world. Although the space-time wheel was only refined from the space-time wheel core components, its speed was not to be underestimated. The space-time wheel left Zhuowen's hand and suddenly expanded to dozens of feet, turning into a small platform. Zhuowen stepped in, and suddenly, the space-time law power in the space-time wheel flowed out like a waterfall, bringing Zhuowen with it and vanishing from the spot. Boom! Zhuowen had just left in the space-time wheel when a thunderbolt exploded. Then, the thunder-winged Taotai swept to where Zhuowen was and clawed at him. Unfortunately, the lightning-winged Taotai missed its target. The thunder-winged Taotai became more furious and continued to chase after Zhuowen. Zhuowen heaved a sigh of relief when he saw that the thunder-winged Taotai did not continue to approach him. The speed of the space-time wheel is truly astonishing. The thunder-winged Taoye's speed is already terrifying enough, but it still wasn't able to catch up with the space-time wheel. Zhuowen muttered to himself. What made him feel helpless was that although the thunder-winged Taotai was no longer closing the distance between them, the space-time wheel didn't shake it off either. Just like that, the lightning-winged Taotai hung far behind the space-time wheel. Zhuowen no longer paid attention to the thunder-winged Taotai behind him. Instead, he silently sensed the aura of his clone. Jun could sense that the clone's aura was extremely weak, as if it could die at any moment. Zhuowen's heart sank. He knew that the clone must have been severely injured. Otherwise, its aura would not be so weak. 2 hours later, Yun drove the space-time wheel to a sea covered with red floccules. Red floccules covered the surface of the sea, dyeing the entire surface of the sea red. In the middle of the red floccules, there was a giant beast that was covered in wounds. When Zhuowen's gaze fell on the giant beast, his eyes suddenly lit up. Wasn't that the clone that he had been searching for? However, the clone was severely injured. Zhuowen tried to communicate with the clone several times, but to no avail. It seems that I have to go down personally to retrieve the clone. Zhuowen knew that the clone was on the brink of death. It was basically impossible for the clone to return to his body. He had to retrieve the clone personally. However, Yun also understood that it would take some time for him to retrieve the clone. Even if it wasn't long, the Thunderwing Taotai would still catch up with him. By then, it would not be easy for him to leave via the space-time wheel. However, this was the only way out of desperation. If he didn't retrieve the clone, he would lose it completely in the future. The clone possessed the bloodline of the King Devourer, and its strength was even stronger than the original body. Of course, if the original body were to perform space-time divine skill, the clone might not be the original body's match. However, its overall strength was definitely stronger than the original body. Especially when the clone had passed through the 3 disasters and become a true god rank 3, its strength would be comparable to an expert of the Void Sky 9th step. By then, the clone would become Zhuowen's final trump card. He definitely couldn't lose such an important clone. Zhuowen immediately retrieved the space-time wheel and leaped down. He landed on the giant body of the King Devourer. Then, Zhuowen placed his right hand on the King Devourer and immediately kept it in the spiritual ring. The moment he kept the King Devourer, Zhuowen immediately took out the space-time wheel. However, just as he was about to step onto the space-time wheel, a terrifying thunderous explosion filled his ears. It was obvious that the thunderbolt was very close. Without thinking, Zhuowen grabbed the phagocytosis and threw it behind him. The phagocytosis had been held by the King Devourer. When Zhuowen retrieved the King Devourer, he naturally kept the phagocytosis as well. Bang! Terrifying energy surged out. Zhuowen let out a groan. The arm that was holding the phagocytosis was twisted out of shape. He spat out a mouthful of blood and was sent flying. The thunderous wing Taotai had succeeded in its attack. It didn't want to let go of its advantage and launched another attack on Zhuowen. Zhuowen's gaze was gloomy as he took a deep breath, and then he suddenly pointed out with his right hand. Instantly, strands of invisible ripples of energy emanated from his finger. Waning sun above the sea. Zhuowen immediately used the divine skill, Waning sun above the sea. A waning sun rose slowly. Then, a terrifying energy burst out like fireworks as the waning sun rose. The thunderous wing Taoye's eyes shrunk. Its attack was immediately blocked by the waning sun above the sea. Moreover, the surging energy of the waning sun above the sea was constantly acting on the thunderous wing Taoye's body, causing it to stagnate. Taking advantage of the moment when the thunderous wing Taotai was stagnant, Yun finally stepped onto the space-time wheel. He then turned into a stream of light and disappeared. When the thunderous wing Taotai came back to its senses, Yun was already thousands of meters away. The thunderous wing Taotai roared furiously and continued to chase after Zhuowen. It seemed that it wouldn't give up until it caught up with Zhuowen. On the space-time wheel, Zhuowen spat out a mouthful of blood. His face was as pale as snow. It was already difficult for him to use the waning sun above the sea. Moreover, he had to use this divine skill to fight against the thunderous wing Taotai. This made Zhuowen even more injured. Now, Yun almost didn't have the strength to move. It wasn't easy for him to control the space-time wheel. Zhuowen took out a drop of heavenly starry sky essence from his spiritual ring and swallowed it. However, this time, Zhuowen found that the heavenly starry sky essence didn't completely heal his injuries. Chapter 2349. The trial is over. Injuries caused by space-time precepts? Zhuowen narrowed his eyes and quickly thought of the key point. The heavenly domain starry sky essence couldn't remove the wound left in his body by the space-time law. This made Zhuowen think of something terrifying. Most of the space-time law's power could only be grasped by Void Sky 9 Steps cultivators, and this power was weaker than the Heavenly Tao Law. Since the Heavenly Domain Starry Sky Essence couldn't heal the damage caused by the space-time laws, it probably couldn't heal the damage caused by the Heavenly Tao Laws. In other words, the Heavenly Domain Starry Sky Essence had no healing effect on cultivators below the Void Heaven 9th Step or above who had mastered these two laws. It was no wonder that Great Brahma had so much Heavenly Domain Starry Sky Essence and had not used it for himself. Instead, he had taken it out as a reward. Moreover, Zhuowen had taken out a pool of Heavenly Domain Starry Sky Essence without saying a word. It turned out that the Heavenly Domain Starry Sky Essence was completely useless to an existence at the level of Great Brahma. Since the Heavenly Domain Starry Sky Essence was unable to remove the damage from the space-time law, Zhuowen could only rely on the space-time law he had mastered to slowly recover. Moreover, Zhuowen discovered that after being injured by the space-time law energy, he was actually unable to freely mobilize the space-time law energy within his body. Although Zhuowen had recovered from his injuries, he was still unable to freely use the power of the space-time rules. It was basically wishful thinking for him to use the waning sun on the sea. Zhuowen sighed softly. He knew that after being injured by the space-time precepts, there was probably a gap in the foundation of his body. If this injury was not removed in time, it would not be good for him in the future. Let's leave this place first. Zhuowen sighed. The space-time wheel whooshed and turned into a streamer of light. Soon, it landed on the Bone Island. As for the Thunderwing Taodai, although it was still chasing after Zhuowen, it couldn't catch up with him at all. At this moment, the green gate on the bone pillar in the center of the island was gradually shrinking. It would probably disappear completely soon. Zhuowen heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, he had made it back in time. If he had been any slower, the green door would have really disappeared. After putting away the space-time wheel, Zhuowen stepped through the green door. On the other side of the green door was still the bottom of the cliff. At this moment, among the many creatures frozen in eternal time around the bottom of the sea, the ice on the surface of 6 figures gradually melted. When Yao Xiangjuan's hand was empty, she regained her freedom. She stretched her limbs, and after confirming that her soul had indeed returned to her physical body, she felt relieved. However, when her gaze fell on the young man in white who was still frozen in the time node not far away, her relaxed heart was once again in suspense. Tang Ruqing, Xiao Lang, Xiao Yin, and Xiao Fu emerged from their frozen time. The 4 of them naturally noticed Yao Xiangjuan, who had returned to normal, and gathered around her. Of course, the attention of the 5 of them was completely focused on the white-clothed young man. What they didn't notice was that a frozen time node far away from the cliff had melted as well. Ancestor Lu's expression was ugly. He glanced at Yao Xiangjuan and the other 4 nearby and snorted coldly in his heart. Then, he quietly left the seabed. Why hasn't Brother Zhuo woken up yet? Could something have happened in there? Xiao Lang asked worriedly. Tang Ruqing knocked Xiao Lang's head and said, "You talk too much. Brother Zhuo is so strong. How could something have happened to him?" Xiao Lang rubbed his head and laughed foolishly. He hurriedly agreed. Just as the 5 of them were worried about Zhuowen, the ice around the young man in white shattered with a crack. The young man in white who was frozen in the time node slowly fell to the ground. Zhuowen opened his eyes and looked at the concerned gazes of the 5 people in front of him. He knew that he had successfully come out. After greeting Yao Xiangjuan and the other 4, his divine sense quietly entered the spirit ring. After discovering that there was indeed a black space-time key and a life crystal in the spirit ring, he breathed a sigh of relief. The trial is over. You can leave this place. An indifferent voice was heard, and soon after, a mysterious head slowly appeared from the cliff. Yao Xiangjuan and the other 4 all took a step back and stared at the mysterious head with vigilance. If they remembered correctly, they had entered the trial grounds for no reason at all because of this mysterious head. Now that this mysterious head had appeared, how could they not be nervous? Zhuowen, on the other hand, was calm and collected. He cast a grateful look at the mysterious head. He knew that if it weren't for the mysterious head's help, It would have been very difficult for him to pass the trial set by the space-time master on his own. Brother Zhua, let's leave this damned place. Seeing that the mysterious head didn't do anything else, Yao Xiangjuan looked at Zhuowen and said. Zhuowen shook his head and said, "You all leave first. I still have some things to discuss with this senior." Yao Xiangjuan and the other four looked at each other. They all knew that the mysterious head was temperamental and powerful. No one dared to get close to this terrifying thing. But Zhuowen actually wanted to stay behind and talk to such a terrifying existence alone. Wasn't he taking his own life as a joke? But Yao Xiangjuan still wanted to say something, but suddenly a teleportation force enveloped her, Tang Ruqing, and the other three. Then the five of them disappeared without a trace, leaving only Zhuowen behind. "Thank you for this trial, senior." Zhuowen cupped his fists and said. The mysterious head said indifferently, "You're welcome. You and I have a transactional relationship. I need you to help me find my left eye and heart, so I naturally can't let you die. Moreover, I only lowered the trial's difficulty. You were able to pass because of your ability." Zhuowen shook his head, not agreeing with the mysterious head's words. If it weren't for the mysterious head, his chances of passing the trial wouldn't have been more than 10%. He still had some self-awareness. "Take out your time and space crystals," the mysterious head suddenly said. Zhuowen was startled, but he didn't refuse. He took out all the time and space crystals he had collected in his spirit ring. The mysterious head opened its mouth and spat out a fishy wind. Then, 1/3 of the crystals Zhuowen took out were directly swept away by the fishy wind and crushed into a paste. "Drink it." The fishy wind blew, and the paste was delivered to Zhuowen's mouth. Zhuowen hesitated for a moment, but still swallowed the paste. A cool feeling spread throughout his body, and then Zhuowen's eyes burst out with a bright light. He found that after drinking the paste, the injuries caused by the space-time rules of conduct on his body had completely healed. "Thank you, senior." Zhuowen cupped his fists and said gratefully. "You desperately want to obtain this space-time key so that you can enter the space-time temple, right?" The mysterious head said casually. Zhuowen's heart skipped a beat. The mysterious head's origin was mysterious, and it seemed to be familiar with the space-time master. Perhaps it knew the specifics of the space-time temple. "Please enlighten me, senior," Zhuowen said respectfully. The mysterious head glanced at Zhuowen indifferently and said, "The master of time and space is not a generous person. Even if this guy had fallen, I'm afraid he wouldn't have left behind many good things. The space-time key that you have desperately collected will probably disappoint you." Chapter 2350. Come out. The mysterious head nodded and no longer bothered with the space-time temple. Instead, it said indifferently, "You only have 100 years to bring back my left eye and heart. Otherwise, you know the consequences." After saying that, the mysterious head slowly disappeared into the rock wall. Zhuowen looked at the blood jade lying quietly in his right palm. The mysterious head's voice sounded in his mind. "This blood jade can help you escape a life and death crisis. This is my gift to you. Don't disappoint me." The voice gradually faded. Soon after, the space around Zhuowen began to distort. He felt as if the world was spinning around him. When Zhuowen opened his eyes again, a familiar starry sky appeared in front of him. Zhuowen was no stranger to this starry sky. It was the starry sky outside the space-time quicksand river. At this moment, Zhuowen was standing on a dilapidated meteor. Behind him was the space-time quicksand river that stretched as far as the eye could see. At that moment, the river of space-time quicksand was heavily guarded. Cultivators in uniforms and weapons stood around the river of space-time quicksand. These cultivators were all from the quicksand family. Before Zhuowen came out, he already expected that the quicksand family would not let him go so easily, so he changed his appearance in advance. Now that Zhuowen had mastered the space-time law, it was not difficult to use the space-time law to conceal his aura. Moreover, the advantage of doing so was that even if Kuang Li stood in front of him, he might not be able to distinguish his true aura. "Come with us." As soon as Zhuowen came out, 2 cultivators from the quicksand family immediately rushed over and stared at Zhuowen with unfriendly eyes. As long as Zhuowen made any strange movements, these two people would immediately go berserk and kill him. Zhuon spread his hands and did not resist, leaving with the two. Not far from the space-time quicksand river was the old site of the space-time pillar. Since Yuan demolished it, an even more magnificent temple was built here. Kuang Li was overseeing this temple. Cultivators would often emerge from the river of space-time quicksand. Wild gravel would not let any of them go. He would first conduct a strict inspection before letting them go. Kuang Li sat in the hollow temple, surrounded by the endless starry sky. Not far away from the wild gravel, there was a cage made of molten iron. The surface of the cage was filled with dazzling ripples. It was obvious that there was a layer of powerful restriction on it. There were 4 people in the cage, 3 men and 1 woman. The 4 of them glared at Kuang Li with hatred, as if they wanted to tear him apart with their gazes. Outside the cage stood a beautiful woman with a pale face. This beautiful woman's hands were shackled with restrictive spells, and her aura was rather chaotic. Miss Yao, you are from 6 Desires Palace. I don't want to attack you. As long as you don't care about these 4 people, I will let you go now. Kuang Li looked at the beautiful woman and said faintly. The beautiful woman was Yao Xiangjuan, who had left the river of space-time quicksand before Zhuowen. As for the 4 people imprisoned in the cage, they were Tang Ruqing, Xiao Lang, Xiao Yin, and Xiao Fu. Yao Xiangjuan raised her head and looked coldly at Kuang Li, saying, I am also Zhuowen's friend. If you want to take revenge on Zhuowen, you can also imprison me or even kill me. Kuang Li looked at Yao Xiangjuan with a headache. Yao Xiangjuan's position in 6 Desires Palace was very special. How could he dare to act recklessly? If anything happened to Yao Xiangjuan, their quicksand family would not be able to stay in the 6 Desires heavenly realm. They could just get lost. However, Yao Xiangjuan was trying her best to protect Zhuon. This gave Kuang Li a headache. If Brother Zhuo comes out, it will be the time of your death. In the cage, Xiao Lang glared at Kuang Li and said coldly. After seeing Zhuowen defeat challengers time and time again in the trial space, Xiao Lang had blind confidence in Zhuowen. Lu Zhu and Xin Jian couldn't defeat the 3rd stage's guardian even when they joined forces, but in the end, Zhuowen defeated him. He knew that this wasn't a fluke, but that Zhuowen was really strong. Kuang Li looked as if he had heard the funniest joke. He looked mockingly at Xiao Lang, who was furious, and said, A coward who fled in panic? You say that when that coward comes back, it will be the time of my death? Your joke is very funny. You should be rewarded. After Kuang Li finished speaking, he suddenly stretched out his right hand. Xiao Lang immediately groaned and spat out a mouthful of blood. His face was pale and his body twitched. Kuang Li was still smiling, but his smile was very cold, like a sharp blade, sharp and merciless. Tang Ruqing quickly helped Xiao Lang up. She didn't say anything and just looked coldly at Kuang Li. Because of that, Sun, all of you suffered an unexpected calamity. Do all of you feel very unreconciled? If you feel unreconciled, then you should blame that Jun. It was he who caused all of you to end up in this state. Kuang Li spoke slowly. Some. 2 soldiers walked over from the entrance of the temple, and they had a hunchbacked middle-aged man behind them. My lord, this is a cultivator who just came out of the river of space-time. A soldier walked over and said. Kuang Li casually glanced at the hunchbacked middle-aged man, yet he didn't notice the aura he was looking for. He said indifferently, Have you checked? Yes, there's no problem. The soldier said respectfully. Since there's no problem, then ask him to fuck off. Don't be an eyesore here. Kuang Li spoke casually. My lord, he said he wants to see you. The soldier continued. Kuang Li's figure froze, and then he turned around and sized up the middle-aged man seriously. He said with a teasing tone, You're looking for me? The hunchbacked middle-aged man slowly raised his head and met Kuang Li's eyes. Then a terrifying murderous intent suddenly erupted. Kuang Li sensed that something was wrong. He stomped his right foot and leaped dozens of meters up. He flipped back more than 10 times and landed 100 meters away. The place where he had been standing had been distorted into nothingness. The power of the rules of spacetime. For you? Kuang Li asked solemnly. As soon as Kuang Li finished speaking, The two soldiers with the middle-aged man screamed and exploded into two clouds of blood mist. Haven't you been looking for me all this time? Now you're asking me who I am? The hunchbacked middle-aged man slowly straightened up. The skin on his face constantly changed, revealing a young face. Zhuowen. Kuang Li's face turned ugly. He coldly looked at the white-clothed youth in front of him again. This time, Kuang Li found that the white-clothed youth in front of him gave him a strong sense of danger. This sense of danger was much stronger than before Zhuowen entered the river of spacetime. Kuang Li knew that those who could enter the river of spacetime and leave with their own strength could basically master the rules of spacetime or the rules of spacetime. There were also those who had comprehended the rules of spacetime, but they were only a minority. Chapter 2351. Severely injured Wild Gravel Zhuowen summoned the black-clothed Zhuowen and ordered him to rescue Yao Xiangjuan and the others first. Don't even think about it. Wild Gravel snorted when he saw that Zhuowen wanted to save Yao Xiangjuan and the others. An ice staff appeared in his hand and he slammed it into the ground. Rumble! The ground of the divine temple was completely shattered. Below was a pitch-black abyss, so deep that the bottom could not be seen. Little bastard, I've been waiting for you for a long time. This spacetime swamp was specially prepared for you. So what if you've mastered the laws of spacetime? You can't move an inch in this swamp. Kuang Li sneered. When the ground exploded, Kuang Li had already crushed a talisman and left the range of the temple. If one were to look carefully, they would see that the huge temple was falling apart again. This time, the separation was even more thorough. Everything was swallowed up by the dark abyss. The darkness of the abyss was completely different from the darkness of the surrounding stars. Wild Gravel stood with his hands behind his back. Behind him stood thousands of cultivators from the quicksand family. Many wandering cultivators scattered in the distance also noticed the collapsed temple. Many of them knew what had happened back then. They also knew that Wild Gravel's true motive for guarding the exit of the river of spacetime quicksand was a young cultivator named Zhuowen. Now that Wild Gravel's newly built temple had collapsed, they knew that Wild Gravel had most likely found Zhuowen. Many cultivators pitied Zhuowen and sighed inwardly at his bad luck to have been targeted by such a terrifying existence as Wild Gravel. Zhuowen is probably trapped in the spacetime swamp and can't move. I'll go get him. Wild Gravel waited for a while and slowly approached the abyss after discovering that there was no movement in front of him. The spacetime swamp was a spacetime ability that Wild Gravel had comprehended from the river of spacetime quicksand. Of course, Wild Gravel's spacetime ability was only the tip of the iceberg. Its power was far inferior to Zhuowen's self-created ocean's waning Sunday. After all, Zhuowen's spacetime god art was intentionally allowed by the mysterious head for Zhuowen to comprehend, so the power of the god art was naturally extraordinary. This kind of divine ability didn't have much offensive power, but it had a very terrifying suction power. It was as if one was in a real swamp. Kuang Li had once relied on this divine power to restrain cultivators of the same level. This divine power had also made Kuang Li famous in the Six Desires heavenly domain. Kuang Gravel arrived at the edge of the spacetime swamp, and just as he was about to enter to investigate, an ominous premonition arose in his mind. The ominous feeling grew stronger and stronger, causing Wild Gravel to immediately swing the ice staff in his hand, circling it around his waist. Boom! Boom! Instantly, a terrifying icy aura lingered around Kuang Li's body, revealing 8 thick ice mirrors. Bang bang bang! The moment the 8 ice mirrors were formed, a terrifying collision sound rang out from the ice mirrors. Kuang Li let out a muffled groan as he retreated. His eyes were gloomy as he looked at the edge of the spacetime swamp in front of him. There, a figure slowly appeared, and at the feet of this figure was a constantly rotating disc. As this disc continued to rotate, it constantly circulated a powerful spacetime power. This figure was none other than Zhuowen, and the disc was the spacetime wheel. Tang Ruqing, Yao Xiangjuan, and the other 4 were behind Zhuowen, standing on the spacetime wheel. The suction force of the spacetime swamp was really terrifying, but the spacetime wheel was too fast. Even if the suction force was strong enough to lift a cauldron, it could only slow down the speed of the spacetime wheel, not stop it. Old bastard, I'm sorry to have let your plan fall through. Juan took a step forward, leaping out of the space-time wheel, and slashed out with the Emperor sword in his hand. The sword light turned into a huge crescent and instantly fell in front of Kuang Li. Boom! Kuang Li raised his ice staff and blocked the sword light, but Juan had already arrived in front of him, and then a storm of attacks followed. Juan's space-time law had reached large success, and every attack contained a powerful energy that could distort space-time. Of course, Kuang Li was not weak either. He was a half-step void sky ninth-step cultivator, so he had also grasped a certain amount of space-time law. The two fought fiercely, and in an instant, they exchanged dozens of blows. Wherever they passed, space-time would distort and collapse, and no one dared to approach. The people brought by Kuang Li wanted to help, but before they could get close, they were annihilated by the space-time law. These people were so scared that they immediately retreated far away, not daring to approach. On the space-time wheel, Yao Xiangjuan, Tang Ruqing, and the other four were also quite worried about Juan. Although the five of them knew that Juan was very strong, and that in the trial space, even Shen Jian might not be his opponent. However, this was the outside world, and space-time law power could not be called king here. After all, Juan was only a void sky 7th-step cultivator, and there was a big gap between him and Kuang Li. Even if Zhuowen had a powerful space-time divine ability, if he could not kill in one blow, it would be very dangerous. Bang! In the two-man battle, a figure suddenly flew out and landed a few hundred miles away in an extremely sorry state. When Yao Xiangjuan and the other four saw this figure, their hearts tightened because this figure was none other than Juan. At this moment, Juan was in a very sorry state. This Kuang Li was indeed powerful, and Juan also found that Kuang Li had grasped large success space-time law, and his realm was higher than his. In the battle, Juan would inevitably be at a disadvantage. Zhuowen knew very well that if he continued to fight with Kuang Li like this, he would undoubtedly lose. Little bastard, you have some ability. You have actually grasped large success space-time law, but what's the use? The gap between you and me is too big. Large success space-time law has no advantage against me. The sound of rushing wind, accompanied by Kuang Li's cold voice, quickly swept over. Zhuowen took a deep breath. Looking at Kuang Li, who was getting closer and closer, he pointed with his right hand, and a boundless sea suddenly appeared around him. In the depths of the pitch-black sea, a fiery red waning sun slowly rose behind Tun. The moment this waning sun rose to its highest point, a surge of space-time power erupted like countless bombs, and everywhere the waning sun shone on was affected. And Kuang Li, who was closest to Zhuowen, bore the brunt of the waning sun's most powerful and terrifying power. Bang! 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 Kuang Li's figure froze. He stared at the waning sun and said in a low voice, "This is space-time divine ability? How did this boy comprehend such a terrifying space-time divine ability?" As soon as Kuang Li finished speaking, a bloody mist immediately erupted from his body. The power of the waning sun was constantly exerted on his body. In just an instant, Kuang Li's body became badly mutilated. Ah! Kuang Li roared. He took out an ice blue bead and crushed it. Instantly, his entire body was frozen into an ice sculpture by the terrifying cold air. Then, he turned into a blue light and disappeared from where he stood. After Kuang Li used an escape technique to escape, the people he brought with him also retreated. Zhuan, on the other hand, sat on the ground and said to himself with a wry smile, "Sure enough, the gap between our realms and strength is too great." Zhuan knew that this wasn't the trial space. A half-step void sky 9th-step cultivator wasn't easy to deal with. It was already amazing that he could seriously injure Kuang Li. Chapter 2352. Let's go. Yao Xiangjuan controlled the space-time wheel and landed beside Zhuan. She pulled Zhuowen up and left. Zhuan didn't pursue Kuang Li. He knew that even if Kuang Li didn't die, he would be severely injured. Moreover, Kuang Li was injured by a space-time spirit art. It would be difficult for him to recover. Zhuan had suffered such injuries before, so he knew how difficult it was to heal from space-time law injuries. Zhuan didn't have any blood feud with the Quicksand family, and Kuang Li had paid a corresponding price. Therefore, Yuan didn't plan to cause trouble for the Quicksand family. However, the news of today's battle spread throughout the Gulan Galaxy. Many cultivators in the Gulan Galaxy knew that a young cultivator named Zhuowen had appeared from the space-time river of Quicksand and defeated Kuang Li in one fell swoop, forcing him to flee. "Brother Zhua, can you stop at the star field ahead?" Yao Xiangjuan suddenly asked. Zhuan was sitting cross-legged in front. When he heard Yao Xiangjuan's words, he asked, "Why?" "My junior sister Zhu Rui left the space-time river of Quicksand in advance. She sent me a message saying that she is in this star field. I want to take her with me." Yao Xiangjuan answered honestly. Zhuan nodded. Speaking of Zhu Rui, Zhuan remembered the woman surnamed Su who was chased to death by her Dao companion. Her Dao companion was called Jia Wendong. That guy seemed to have killed her in order to pursue Zhu Rui. He was a complete scumbag. "Why did Miss Zhu Rui come to this star field? Why didn't she wait for you in the Gulan Galaxy?" Zhuan asked in surprise. Yao Xiangjuan smiled. "I heard that my junior sister's Dao companion's family is in this star field. My junior sister followed her Dao companion here and waited for me." Zhuan was speechless. "Is junior sister Zhu's Dao companion called Jia Wendong?" Brother Zhua, how did you know?" Yao Xiangjuan asked in astonishment. Zhuan felt helpless in his heart. This Jia Wendong was quite capable. He actually managed to settle Zhu Rui so quickly. "Look at this." Zhuan took out a crystal ball and tossed it to Yao Xiangjuan. It contained the entire conversation between Jia Wendong and the Su woman that Zhuan had recorded in the river of space-time quicksand. The more Yao Xiangjuan looked, the uglier her face became. Her chest heaved up and down. She was extremely agitated. Yao Xiangjuan clenched her fists and muttered, "This bastard. I didn't expect that Jia Wendong would be worse than a beast. He wouldn't even let off his own Dao companion." "Miss Yao, I think you should know what to do next, right?" Zhuowen said indifferently. Yao Xiangjuan remained silent and only nodded. Obviously, her emotions had not completely calmed down. After Yao Xiangjuan had completely calmed down, she returned the crystal ball to Zhuowen and sincerely said, "Brother Zhua, thank you so much for this time. If it weren't for you, I don't know how long junior sister Zhu Rui would have been deceived by that scum." Zhuan returned the crystal ball to Yao Xiangjuan and said, "Keep this. When the time comes, you will have to persuade junior sister Zhu. This crystal ball is indispensable. Words are not very persuasive." Yao Xiangjuan looked at Zhuowen with gratitude and put away the crystal ball. "By the way, Miss Yao, where is your brother Yao Xiangjuan?" Zhuowen suddenly asked. Yao Xiangjuan was stunned and said in a slightly flustered manner, "My brother came out earlier than us. He has already gone back. Brother Zhua, you don't have to worry about him." Zhuowen looked at Yao Xiangjuan in surprise. The latter's expression was a little strange, but Zhuowen did not mind. Zhuowen took out the completely dim necklace from his spirit ring and handed it to Yao Xiangjuan, saying, "Miss Yao, this should be something your brother left for me. In the river of space-time quicksand, it saved me several times. It's a pity that the life source in this necklace has been completely consumed by me. However, I still have some life crystals. If possible, I would like to give these life crystals to your brother as well to express my apology." Zhuowen took out the green crystal full of vitality and handed it to Yao Xiangjuan. Yao Xiangjuan's delicate body trembled. Her beautiful eyes looked at the necklace in Zhuowen's hand and she actually smiled. Perhaps realizing that she had lost her composure, Yao Xiangjuan quickly restrained her smile and put away the necklace. She returned the life crystals to Zhuowen and said, "Brother Zhua, life crystals are very precious. I have no right to accept this thing." Speaking until here, Yao Xiangjuan looked at the necklace in her hand and smiled sweetly, "I will pass this necklace to my brother. If he knows that you have accepted his goodwill, he will definitely be very happy. Also, my brother has a way to replenish the life source in this necklace." Zhuowen frowned slightly. Seeing that Yao Xiangjuan had returned the life crystals, he did not insist. "I heard from Jia Wendong that the force behind Zhu Rui is the Six Desires Palace. You are also Zhu Rui's senior sister. You must be a disciple of the Six Desires Palace, right?" Zhuowen asked casually. Tang Ruching and the other three were surprised. Obviously, the identity of a disciple of the Six Desires Palace carried a lot of weight in their eyes. Yao Xiangjuan openly admitted, saying, Brother Zhuo guessed correctly. I am indeed a disciple of the Six Desires Palace. I see that Brother Zhuo is asking about a problem that you need me to solve. Zhuowen pondered for a moment and said, I want to ask you about a person. Her name is Moyan Wushang. She should also be a disciple of the Six Desires Palace, right? Speaking of Moyan Wushang, Nguyen felt a little guilty in his heart. Ever since Moyan Wushang left with the mysterious black-clothed woman, Nguyen had not seen her for a long time. He also did not have any news about her. This time, since he had come to the Six Desires Heavenly Realm by accident, he had to meet Moyan Wushang. Moreover, he still remembered the promise that he had made to Moyan Wushang after he left. Yao Xiangjuan's beautiful eyes revealed a confused look and said, Brother Zhuo, this is the first time I have heard of this name. I am afraid that I will have to disappoint you. I have never heard of this name in the Six Desires Palace. Zhuan was stunned and immediately said in disbelief, Impossible. Wushang was taken away by the Six Desires Palace. How can there be no such person? Seeing that Zhuowen was a little excited, Yao Xiangjuan was a little puzzled. Who was Moyan Wushang and what was his relationship with Yun? What's wrong with me? Why am I thinking nonsense? Yao Xiangjuan slapped her forehead and thought to herself. Brother Zhuo, I am really not lying to you. This is the first time I have heard of this name. Even if you go to the Six Desires Palace now, it will be the same because there is no such person in the Six Desires Palace, Yao Xiangjuan said helplessly. Zhuowen's eyes were gloomy. He felt that things were a little strange. If Moyan Wushang was not in the Six Desires Palace, then the mysterious black-clothed woman did not bring Moyan Wushang back to the Six Desires Palace. Or the mysterious woman and Moyan Wushang had an accident on the way back to the Six Desires Palace. Or the mysterious woman might have lied to him. Zhuowen frowned slightly. If Moyan Wushang was really not in the Six Desires Palace, then where should he go to find him? Chapter 2353. Exposé, Brother Zhuo, we are here. Suddenly, Yao Xiangjuan's voice rang in Zhuowen's ears. The beautiful star region, which was originally far away, was now close at hand. Where is Junior Sister Zhu? Zhuowen asked. Here. Yao Xiangjuan gave Zhuowen a location. Immediately, Zhuowen controlled the space-time wheel and flew toward the location. It was an extremely prosperous star land. The lights were dazzling and people were coming and going. There were also many tall buildings, which made the star land look like a star in the sky from afar. At the edge of the star land, there was an extremely beautiful cluster of flowers. In the cluster of flowers, there were clusters of beautiful violets. Each cluster of violets emitted a dazzling purple light, which made the cluster of flowers look beautiful and mysterious. At that moment, a man and a woman were sitting on the ground in the cluster of flowers. They were back to back, looking at the beautiful scenery around them and enjoying the rare good weather. Junior Sister Zhu, I specially planted this cluster of violets for you. Do you like it? The handsome man said softly to the beautiful woman beside him. The beautiful woman's cheeks were rosy like a ripe red apple. She lifted her head and looked at the man. Wendong, you are so considerate. This place is very beautiful. I like it very much. As long as you like it. The man was very happy. Swoosh. A streamer swept over quickly and finally stopped above the cluster of flowers. My senior sister is here. When the beautiful woman saw the space-time wheel above her, she quickly stood up. The man followed closely behind her. He lowered his head and his eyes, which were hidden below, were filled with fanaticism. He knew very well that the senior sister that the beautiful woman mentioned had a much higher status in Six Desires Palace than the beautiful woman. If he could get close to this senior sister, he would have no problems entering Six Desires Palace in the future. Thinking of this, the man could not help but lift his head and secretly size up the senior sister that the beautiful woman mentioned. When the man looked at her, he was immediately stunned. The woman in the white fur coat standing on the space-time wheel was too beautiful, so beautiful that it was suffocating. But very quickly, the man felt an ice-cold chill. His gaze moved away from the beautiful woman and landed on the man beside her. This man was very young, and his clothes were as white as snow. His body exuded a mysterious aura. When the man saw the face of the white-clothed youth, his heart trembled. He actually felt a faint killing intent from the white-clothed youth. The man was very puzzled. He clearly did not know this white-clothed youth, so why would the latter show such hostility towards him? It was naturally Zhuowen and the others who rode the space-time wheel to the sky above the flowers. Needless to say, the pair of men sitting among the flowers was Zhu Rui and Jia Wendong. Back then, Jia Wendong left very quickly while Zhuowen was in seclusion. Therefore, by the time Zhuowen came out, Jia Wendong had already left. Therefore, Jia Wendong did not recognize Zhuowen. It's a good place. They actually built a garden directly. It seems like they spent a lot of effort on it. Xiao Lang looked at the surrounding flowers and clicked his tongue in wonder. Jia Wendong frowned slightly. Although Xiao Lang's words were praise, Jia Wendong heard the ridicule in them. Zhu Rui did not hear it. Her beautiful face blushed slightly and revealed a shy expression. Yao Xiangjuan looked at Zhu Rui's appearance and sighed lightly in her heart. If she did not know Jia Wendong's character beforehand, she might still bless Zhu Rui and Jia Wendong in her heart. But now that she knew, she only felt disgust towards Jia Wendong. You're called Jia Wendong, right? Yao Xiangjuan suddenly turned around and looked at Jia Wendong. Jia Wendong hurriedly bowed and said flatteringly, "Yes, I am. I wonder what instructions senior sister has? I want you to stay far away from my junior sister. Get lost now," Yao Xiangjuan said in a low voice. As soon as these words came out, Jia Wendong's face instantly stiffened. Zhu Rui also looked at Yao Xiangjuan in disbelief. But Zhuowen secretly shook his head. This Yao Xiangjuan intended to spare Jia Wendong's life. "Senior sister, what's wrong with you? Did Wendong do something wrong? Did he make you unhappy?" Zhu Rui hurriedly asked. Jia Wendong also hurriedly said, "Junior sister Zhu is right. If senior sister feels that I did something wrong, Wendong will change. I will definitely make senior sister satisfied." Tang Ruqing looked at Jia Wendong with disdain and said in a low voice, "Hypocrite." Yao Xiangjuan shook her head and sneered as she took out a crystal ball from her spirit ring. She handed it to Zhu Rui and said, "Junior sister, look at the image in this crystal ball and you will know how vicious this person is." Zhu Rui took the crystal ball and looked at the image in it. It was the conversation between Jia Wendong and the woman surnamed Su. It ended when the woman was killed by Jia Wendong. Jia Wendong's body trembled. His eyes were filled with fear and he could not help but take a few steps back. He pointed at the crystal ball and said, "This is fake. Junior sister Zhu, senior sister Yao, someone wants to frame me. You can't just sit and do nothing." Zhu Rui was so angry that her entire body trembled. Zhu Rui was not an idiot. She could tell that the crystal ball was not fake. It was a real recording. "I was the one who was in seclusion beside the volcano. Don't you remember?" Zhuowen said slowly. Jia Wendong's pupils constricted. He stared at Zhuowen, then stomped his right foot and fled into the distance. Unfortunately, Jia Wendong did not manage to escape far before a divine sword pierced through his body and destroyed him. "I promised Su Qi that if I met you, I would definitely kill you. I meant what I said." Zhuowen held the divine sword that had returned and muttered to himself. Although the woman surnamed Su did not reveal her name after her death, Zhuowen still found some clues in the woman's belongings and learned her true name. Zhu Rui looked at Jia Wendong, who had been killed by Zhuowen. Her beautiful eyes were cold and ruthless. She bowed to Zhuowen and said, "Thank you, brother Zhuowen, for helping me kill this scum. Zhu Rui is eternally grateful." Zhuowen shook his head and did not say anything. "Brother Zhua, do you want to come back to the Six Desires Palace with me as a guest? After all, you have helped me so much. I should invite you back." Yao Xiangjuan looked at Zhuowen and smiled. Zhuowen's eyes flickered. He originally wanted to go to the Su family first, but he was more worried about Moyan Wushang's safety. Although Yao Xiangjuan said that there was no such person as Moyan Wushang in the Six Desires Palace, Zhuowen still planned to go to the Six Desires Palace to take a look. Perhaps Moyan Wushang had changed his name. Although the chances were extremely slim, Nguyen was still unwilling to give up. Okay, I will go with you to the Six Desires Palace. Zhuowen nodded. Chapter 2354. Pill Furnace Star Zone. That's right. Senior sister, brother Zhua, if you're not in a hurry to leave, you can stay in this star zone for a while longer. Zhu Rui suddenly said. Jia Wendong's death didn't make Zhu Rui sad at all. Especially after seeing Jia Wendong's actions in the crystal ball, Zhu Rui hated Jia Wendong to the extreme. Now that he was killed by Zhuowen, it was exactly what she wanted. Junior sister, why do you want to stay here for a while longer? Yao Xiangjuan looked at Zhu Rui in surprise. Zhuowen and the others also looked at Zhu Rui, waiting for her to continue. Zhu Rui smiled slightly and said, actually, the name of this star zone is called the Pill Furnace Star Zone. The custom of refining elixirs is prevalent here. The elixirs produced here are definitely of the highest quality in the Six Desires heavenly domain. Zhu Rui then said in a low voice, of course, this is not the main point. The main point is that the Pill Furnace Star Zone's Divine Elixir's secret realm is about to open. It is said that the Divine Elixir's secret realm contains countless elixirs. Moreover, they are not man-made elixirs, but elixirs that are formed naturally using heaven and earth as the cauldron. Zhuowen's eyes lit up. Generally speaking, elixirs were mostly man-made. It was inevitable that there would be some parts that were deliberately sculpted. The effect of these elixirs was usually much worse than that of naturally formed elixirs. However, naturally formed elixirs were different. They were the work of nature. Compared to elixirs of the same level, naturally formed elixirs were much better than man-made elixirs. Zhuowen had obtained many resources in the Luo God Palace ruins. He had even obtained level 9 divine elixirs, which were the main ingredients of level 9 divine elixirs. There was no doubt that the efficacy of level 9 divine elixirs far exceeded that of level 9 divine elixirs. Unfortunately, Zhuowen's alchemy skills were not high. Although he had obtained many high-grade elixirs, he didn't dare to practice alchemy. The failure rate was too high. What grade of divine pellets will appear in the divine pellets secret realms? Zhuowen took a deep breath and asked Zhu Rui. Zhu Rui said solemnly, I'm not too sure about this. Jia Wendong told me before that when the divine pill secret realm opened a few times, a level 9 divine pill appeared, which caused the entire star field to go crazy. There were even many foreign experts who entered the divine pill secret realm to snatch the divine pills. Hearing this, Zhuowen's eyes lit up. If there really was a level 9 divine pill, it would be half the effort for Zhuowen's cultivation. Zhuowen's cultivation speed could not be said to be slow. In less than 100 years, he was already at the Void Sky 7 steps. Zhuowen knew very well that the reason why he was able to advance so quickly was mainly because of his endless opportunities. If he were to cultivate normally, it would take him at least tens of thousands of years to reach his current level of cultivation. He had just advanced to the Void Sky 7 steps not too long ago. He knew very well that if he wanted to continue increasing his cultivation, he could only rely on time to slowly grind it out, unless he could use a heaven-defying opportunity. Now, the Divine Pill secret realm mentioned by Zhu Rui was definitely a great opportunity. If he could obtain a large number of high-grade divine pellets, his cultivation speed would naturally increase by a lot. It wasn't just Zhuowen who was interested, even Tang Ruqing and the 3 Xiao brothers revealed expressions of interest. One had to know that the divine pellets in the Divine Pill secret realm were all naturally formed divine pellets. They often contained the Starry Skies laws, and their effects were much better than ordinary divine pellets. How could they give up such an opportunity? Senior sister, what do you think? Do you want to try the Divine Pill secret realm? Zhu Rui looked at Yao Xiangjuan and asked. This time, Zhu Rui originally planned to tell Yao Xiangjuan about this matter and let Yao Xiangjuan join her and Jia Wendong's team to explore the Divine Pill's secret realm together. She knew very well that Yao Xiangjuan was much stronger than her. With Yao Xiangjuan, she would definitely gain a lot in the Divine Pill's secret realm. Although Jia Wendong was killed because of his own sins, Yao Xiangjuan had successfully come to her side. In addition, that Zhuowen was even more unfathomable. Zhu Rui naturally wouldn't let go of such a powerful helper. That was why she suddenly mentioned it. Yao Xiangjuan's willowy eyebrows furrowed slightly. Her status in the Six Desires Palace wasn't low, and she didn't lack cultivation resources. She wasn't very interested in the Divine Pill's secret realm. However, she knew that Zhu Rui wasn't her. Zhu Rui was just an ordinary disciple of the Six Desires Palace. She always had to fight for her own cultivation resources. Moreover, she also knew Zhu Rui's thoughts. Although Yao Xiangjuan wanted to refuse, she glanced sideways with her beautiful eyes and saw the blazing look in the eyes of the white-clothed young man beside her. Only then did she remember that Zhuowen was a lone cultivator who came and went alone. He must also be lacking in cultivation resources. Thinking of this, Yao Xiangjuan smiled and said, I also want to see the divine pellets in the Divine Pill's secret realm. I'll go with you. Seeing that Yao Xiangjuan had agreed, Zhu Rui heaved a sigh of relief. She knew that with Yao Xiangjuan's participation, her chances of entering the Divine Pill's secret realm had increased. Brother Zhua and Miss Tang, what about you? Do you want to come with us? The Divine Pill's secret realm isn't safe, and it's filled with dangers. If we go together, we can take care of each other, right? Zhu Rui looked at Tuan, Tang Ruqing and the other four and asked. I'm honored, Tang Ruqing said with a smile. The three of us also have no problem. The three Shao brothers also patted their chests and said, Tang Ruqing and the three Shao brothers were rogue cultivators, and they definitely wouldn't let go of this opportunity. Brother Zhua, what about you? Zhu Rui looked at Zhuowen and asked. Zhuowen cupped his fists and said, I'm also fine with it. However, I'm used to being alone. This time, I won't be entering the Divine Pill's secret realm with you all. Goodbye. After saying that, Zhuowen put away the space-time wheel and turned into a stream of light, disappearing into the depths of the star field. Whether it was Zhu Rui, Yao Xiangjuan, or Tang Ruqing, Zhuowen and the other three could only be considered as temporary partners. Their only purpose was to leave the river of space-time quicksand. Now that they had left the river of space-time quicksand, Zhuowen naturally didn't plan to go with them. Before Zhu Rui, Yao Xiangjuan, and the others could react, Zhuowen had already disappeared in front of their eyes. Yao Xiangjuan was slightly disappointed. Although she somewhat understood Zhuowen's character, seeing Zhuowen leave so straightforwardly still made her feel a little disappointed. Tang Ruqing, Xiao Lang, and the other two looked at each other and smiled bitterly, but they didn't say anything. How can Zhuowen be like this? He didn't even say a word and left just like that? Zhu Rui said with displeasure. Yao Xiangjuan shook her head slightly and said, Junior apprentice Sister Zhu, Brother Zhua has already said that he won't be going with us in the Divine Pill's secret realm. After the Divine Pill's secret realm is over, he will come back to find us. Zhu Rui said with some displeasure, If he has something to do, he will come to you. If he has nothing to do, he will just ignore it. How irresponsible. I don't think Senior Apprentice Sister needs to invite him to the Six Desires Palace. Yao Xiangjuan shook her head and didn't say anything. She didn't feel any displeasure in her heart. Yao Xiangjuan knew very well that the things Zhuowen had done for her were far more than what she had done for him. Moreover, the things he had done for her were much more serious. If it weren't for Zhuowen, she wouldn't have been able to leave the river of space-time quicksand. She might have stayed there forever or even died in the trial space. It could be said that Yao Xiangjuan owed Zhuowen several lives. Chapter 2355. Life or Death Pill? Marshall and Jing Yun also came to the Pill Furnace Star area. Just when Yao Xiangjuan was in a daze, she felt something and took out a shiny communication jade. Her beautiful eyes were filled with surprise. Marshall and Jing Yun also came? It seems like the opening of the Divine Pill's secret realm this time isn't simple. Zhu Rui exclaimed. Jing Yun had a very high status in the Six Desires Palace. She was the Palace Lord of the Desire Palace. Her cultivation had reached the 9 steps Void Sky realm. She was a very powerful existence. In the past, no 9 steps Void Sky realm expert had appeared in the opening of the Divine Pill's secret realm. However, even the Palace Master of the Desire Palace, one of the 6 great Palace Masters of the Six Desires Palace, had come. It was obvious that the opening of the Divine Pill's secret realm this time wasn't simple. Yao Xiangjuan also noticed that the Divine Pill's secret realm this time was different. Her beautiful eyes were filled with caution. Miss Yao, since you are going to see your martial aunt, it's not convenient for us to follow you. The four of us will take our leave first. Tang Ruqing cupped his hands at Yao Xiangjuan. I'm sorry for this. Next time, if there's a chance, Xiangjuan will invite you to the Six Desires Palace, Yao Xiangjuan said apologetically. Originally, she wanted to invite Tang Ruqing and the others to enter the Divine Pill's secret realm together. However, since her martial aunt Jing Yun had come and summoned her, she naturally couldn't team up with Tang Ruqing and the others. Thank you for your kindness, Miss Yao. Goodbye. Tang Ruqing smiled faintly as he led the three brothers away from this place. Let's go. After Tang Ruqing left, Yao Xiangjuan brought Zhu Rui and flew in another direction. The opening of the Divine Pill's secret realm had spread like wildfire in the Pill Furnace Star area. Everyone knew about it. Zhuan casually came to a street in a star continent. He could hear many people talking about the Divine Pill's secret realm. Zhuan came to a restaurant called the Courtyard Pavilion. He took out a high-grade divine stone and gave it to the owner. Then, he casually chose a seat by the window and sat down. After a short while, the owner served several bottles of good wine and placed them in front of Zhuan. The reason why Zhuan had chosen to sit in this pavilion was mainly because of the wine table in the middle of the restaurant, where a burly man with a full beard was chatting with fervor and assurance. The content of their discussion was about the Divine Pill's secret realm. The bearded man didn't have a high cultivation base, but he was quite knowledgeable. He explained everything related to the Divine Pill's secret realm clearly and logically. The cultivators at the other tables also listened with great interest, clapping and cheering. I say, Big Beard, the opening of the Divine Pill's secret realm this time is much livelier than the previous times. Not only did the number of foreign cultivators who came to the Pill Furnace Star Field increase by several times, I even heard that a Void Sky 9 Steps expert has come. Is this true? A tall and thin cultivator asked cautiously. The bearded man chuckled and said, You are right, this time, the opening of the Divine Pellet's secret realm is indeed different from the past. There are also a few Void Sky 9 Ascension Stage powerhouses here. As far as I know, Six Desires Palace's Palace Lord Jing Yun and Lu Shenhal's Lu Haotian are both here. These are the two that I know. As soon as the bearded man finished speaking, the crowd burst into an uproar. Six Desires Palace's Palace Lord Jing Yun and Lu Shenhal's Lu Haotian were no strangers to the crowd. Jing Yun was one of the 6 palace lords of the Six Desires Palace. She had a high status and was a Void Sky 9 Ascension Stage expert. Her strength was unfathomable, and she was a true powerhouse who stood at the peak of the Six Desires heavenly domain. Lu Shenhal's Lu Haotian was not bad either. He was the palace lord of Lu Shenhal and also the strongest powerhouse in the Lu Shenhal. His cultivation base was almost the same as Jing Yun's. With these two supreme powerhouses here, it was really lively. The more Zhuan listened, the more cautious his eyes became. He didn't expect that 2 Void Sky 9 Ascension Stage experts would appear this time. Especially the Six Desires Palace, one of their palace lords was a Void Sky 9 Ascension Stage expert. Did that mean that the other 5 palace lords were also Void Sky 9 Ascension Stage experts? Did that mean that the Six Desires Palace had 6 Void Sky 9 Ascension Stage experts? Zhuowen couldn't help but recall that the Great Brahma Heavenly Domain only had Great Brahma, who had reached the 9th step of the Virtual Sky Realm. Compared to the Six Desires Heavenly Domain, the difference between the 2 heavenly domains was not small. No wonder the Great Brahma Domain was at the bottom of the 8 heavenly domains and had such a bad reputation. The Great Brahma Domain's foundation was indeed much worse than the other heavenly domains. Moreover, the Six Desires heavenly domain was ranked at the top of the 8 heavenly domains. It was indeed not something the Great Brahma Domain could compare with. Of course, the reason why Zhuowen was so cautious was also because of the Lu Shenhal. If he remembered correctly, the Lu Shenhal should be the force behind Ancestor Lu. Originally, he thought that the Lu Shenhal was just an ordinary force. He didn't expect that there would be a Void Sky 9 Ascension Stage expert in the Lu Shenhal. Is something extraordinary going to appear in the divine pill's secret domain? Why would these two magnates appear here at the same time? This is really incredible. At the table, someone finally asked. The bearded man looked around mysteriously and said in a low voice, "Do you really want to know the reason? Let me tell you, I heard it from someone else, and it is said to be very true." "Big Beard, don't keep us guessing, hurry up and tell us." "We can't wait to know the answer," someone shouted. The bearded man's eyes flashed with a trace of pride and he said lightly, "Don't worry, listen to me slowly. The matter is like this. The Pill Furnace City's Pill Union's great elder suddenly passed away a few days ago. Before he passed away, he left behind a will. Do you know what was written in the will?" Everyone was very unhappy with the bearded man's behavior, but they also wanted to know the contents of the will, so they kept urging the bearded man to hurry up and tell them. The bearded man laughed and said, "It is said that the contents of the will are very extraordinary. The general content is that when the divine pill's secret domain opens, a life or death pill will appear. I don't know whether it is true or not, but I know that it is absolutely not groundless. I don't know how the contents of the will were leaked, but after that, our pill furnace star field became so lively." As soon as the bearded man finished speaking, the expressions of the people around him changed greatly. Then, an uproar broke out and everyone's breathing became rapid. The life or death pill was in existence even higher than a level 9 divine pill. The life or death pill contained both life chi and death chi. It was said that cultivators who swallowed the life or death pill could better comprehend the two extremes of life and death. It had unimaginable benefits for Void Sky 9 Ascension Stage cultivators below the two extremes of life and death. Even Void Sky 9 Ascension cultivators would fight over this item until their heads bled. Chapter 2356. Acquaintances. Zhuowen didn't know what the life or death pellet was, but he did know about its effects from the bearded man. He also knew that the life or death pellet could only be found in the divine pellet's secret realm. The last time it appeared was a few million years ago, and it was snatched away by the Will Desire Palace's palace lord. Ever since she obtained the life or death pellet, the Will Desire Palace's palace lord's cultivation base quickly entered the death enlightenment realm. Now that a few hundred years had passed, she might have already entered the life and death realm. Of course, the Will Desire Palace's palace lord rarely showed herself, so everyone could only guess what her cultivation base was. But without a doubt, the life or death pellet's effects were huge. Otherwise, the Will Desire Palace's palace lord wouldn't have been able to enter the death enlightenment realm so quickly. Zhuowen's eyes flickered. The life or death pellet's effects were indeed shocking, but Zhuowen didn't have much thoughts about it. Firstly, his cultivation base was still too low, only at the Void Sky 7th step. This life or death pellet was a divine pellet aimed at the Void Sky 9th step. His cultivation base wasn't high enough, at least in the short term, it wouldn't be of much use to him. Secondly, the appearance of the life or death pellet would definitely attract a large number of experts to fight for it. Among them, there would be 2 Void Sky 9th step experts. Zhuowen's current strength was indeed powerful, but he wasn't a match for true life enlightenment realm experts. He naturally wouldn't take the risk. Furthermore, Zhuowen's main purpose in entering the divine pellet's secret realm was to raise his cultivation base. At most, he would only snatch some rank 9 or rank 8 divine pellets that were useful to him. As for the life or death pellet, it would be best if he could get it, but if he couldn't, he wouldn't force it. Zhuowen called the shop owner over, paid the bill, and asked for the location of the Pill Furnace City. "Sir, are you going to the divine pellet's secret realm?" the shop owner asked in surprise. "Yes, is the divine pellet's secret realm not in the Pill Furnace City?" Zhuowen asked in surprise. The shop owner's eyes lit up, he smiled and said, "There are too many people entering the divine pill's secret realm this time. The Pill Furnace City's pill assembly has already limited the number of people who can enter the secret realm. The number of people who can enter has already been confirmed yesterday. I'm afraid you will be disappointed." Zhuowen furrowed his brows. He didn't expect that the number of people entering the divine pill's secret realm had already been determined. This made him a little speechless, but he didn't want to leave just like that. "Is there no other way?" Zhuowen asked in a low voice. The shopkeeper said apologetically, "Not at the moment. You shouldn't go to Pill Furnace City or you'll have wasted your trip." After the shop owner left, Yuan left the Ting Xian Pavilion. Along the way, he kept thinking about how to enter the Divine Pill's secret realm. He definitely didn't want to miss this Divine Pill's secret realm. If his luck was good, he might be able to rely on the Divine Pills in this Divine Pill's secret realm to successfully advance to the 8 steps Void Sky realm. Zhuan furrowed his brows as he realized that someone was following him. He didn't say anything and turned into a remote alley. The person who was following him didn't have any intention of hiding. He directly came to the alley and met Zhuowen's eyes. "It's you?" Zhuowen looked at the person in front of him. It was the bearded man who had been talking with him in the Ting Xian Pavilion. "Friend, I heard you say that you want to enter the Divine Pill's secret realm, right?" The bearded man said with a smile. Zhuowen said indifferently, "Yes, but unfortunately, the number of people who can enter the Divine Pill's secret realm is limited. Moreover, there are no more spots left." The bearded man chuckled and said, "How about this? I have 2 spots in my hand. As long as you pay a price, I'll sell you 1 spot." Zhuan narrowed his eyes. He felt that this man was deliberately trying to get close to him. However, he had observed this man for a long time and was sure that he had never seen him before. So, why did this man suddenly come to him? The burly man stood there with a smile on his face. He looked at Zhuowen as if he was waiting for Zhuowen's reply. "For you?" Zhuowen asked with a deep voice. The man laughed and said, "Brother Zhuo, you are familiar with this voice, right?" The man's voice suddenly became a little shrill. Zhuowen immediately recognized this voice. Wasn't it Ma Yujia's voice? "Brother Ma?" Zhuowen asked with uncertainty. The corners of the man's mouth curled up into a smile. Then he wiped his face with his right hand. The bearded man's image had long disappeared and was replaced by a fat man. "Brother Zhuo, long time no see. This Ma has missed you so much." Ma Yujia grinned and said with great enthusiasm. "So have this Zhuo. But Brother Ma, why are you in the Pill Furnace Star Field? Didn't you enter the river of space-time quicksand in the ancient Orchid Star River?" Zhuowen asked in surprise. Ma Yujia waved his hand and said, "I didn't enter the river of space-time quicksand. Later, I heard that a life or death pill would appear in the Pill Furnace Star Field, so I hurried here. You can enter the river of space-time quicksand at any time, but this Divine Pill secret realm is a one-time thing. I don't know when the next time will be. Moreover, the spots are limited. If I came late, I wouldn't even be able to drink the soup." Hearing this, Zhuowen also understood. No wonder he didn't meet Ma Yujie in the river of space-time quicksand. It turned out that this guy didn't enter the river of space-time quicksand but came to the Pill Furnace Star Field instead. Of course, if this Ma Yujie had entered the river of space-time quicksand, he would have entered the trial space in the end. At that time, this guy would have likely become a formidable opponent for Zhuan. Naturally, this was the best-case scenario. Moreover, this Ma Yujie really had foresight. If Ma Yujie had entered the river of space-time quicksand first and then came out to the Pill Furnace Star Field, he would probably be in the same situation as Zhuowen now. It would be impossible for him to obtain a spot. "Brother Zhuo, you must have gained a lot in the river of space-time quicksand this time, right? Did you obtain a lot of time and space crystals?" Ma Yujie asked while rubbing his hands. Zhuowen sneered in his heart. He knew that this guy had taken out a spot to find him because he had taken a fancy to the time and space crystals he obtained from the river of space-time quicksand. However, this was Jiang Taigong fishing, and the willing ones would take the bait. If Zhuowen wanted to enter the Divine Pill's secret realm, he indeed needed to exchange a spot with Ma Yujie. Otherwise, he would miss the opportunity to enter the Divine Pill's secret realm. "How do you plan to exchange for this spot?" Zhuowen asked calmly. Ma Yujie grinned and raised 5 fingers on his right hand, saying, "I want 5,000 time and space crystals each." Zhuowen's eyes narrowed. This guy was really demanding an exorbitant price. Although he had gained a lot in the river of space-time quicksand, the total number of time and space crystals he had was only slightly more than 10,000. Now, this guy wanted all of his crystals. This was impossible. Chapter 2357. Palace Master Jing Yun, then how about 800 time in space crystals? Ma Yujie asked with a frown. Zhuan still shook his head and stretched out 5 fingers on his right hand, 500 time in space crystals each. Otherwise, no deal. Ma Yujie hesitated for a moment, then clenched his teeth, a pained look in his eyes as he sighed. It wasn't easy for me to get this spot. Brother Zhua, I see that it wasn't easy for you either. Given our friendship, let's make a deal. Zhuan sneered in his heart. He knew that with Ma Yujie's ability, it wouldn't be difficult for him to get a spot in the Pill Furnace Star Zone. Even if Zhuan bargained very fiercely, it was still Ma Yujie who profited. Then I must thank Brother Ma, Zhuan said with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Ma Yujie didn't care about Zhuan's attitude. He took out a jade tablet and waved it in front of Zhuan, saying, "This is the entry jade tablet. Brother Zhua, let's make the deal." Zhuan didn't waste any time. He took out 500 time and space crystals each and tossed them to Ma Yujie. The latter counted them and handed the entry jade tablet to Zhuan. "Ha, nice deal. Now, Brother Zhua, I see that you don't have any companions. Come with me to Pill Furnace City. It's very lively there right now," Ma Yujie said with a smile. Although Zhuan didn't like Ma Yujie, he was indeed unfamiliar with this place. With someone familiar like Ma Yujie leading the way, he could save a lot of time. Several days later, Ma Yujie and Zhuan arrived in front of a magnificent city. The city's appearance was like a giant cauldron in the center. At the center of the city was a tall tower that reached into the clouds. Clusters of dazzling flames burned at the top of the tower. That's the Pill Tower. It's the headquarters of the Pill Association. The Pill Fire is burning there. It's a very terrifying flame. Ma Yujie pointed at the tall tower that reached into the clouds and smiled at Zhuan. Zhuan nodded, but before he could say anything, Ma Yujie continued, "Brother Zhua, this alchemic fire is the key to opening the Divine Pill's secret realm. To be more precise, this alchemic fire is the key to opening the Divine Pill's secret realm." Zhuan's eyes lit up. It seemed like this Divine Pill's secret realm was completely under the Elixir Association's control. Of course, don't think that the alchemy fire can open the Divine Pill's secret realm at any time. That's impossible. It can only be opened at a specific time and under specific circumstances. Even the Alchemy Assembly can't be sure when the Divine Pill's secret realm can be opened, Ma Yujie said frankly. Zhuan, on the other hand, remained silent. Finally, the two of them passed through the city gates and successfully entered Pill Furnace City. The two of them chose a high-end restaurant and casually ordered some delicacies. Zhuan asked solemnly, "Brother Ma, when will the Divine Pill's secret realm open?" "Soon, in a few days." This Pill Furnace City is the most prosperous city in the Pill Furnace star field. There are many divine pills for sale here. If Brother Zhua is interested, you can take a stroll around the city. Maybe you can find some divine pills that are useful to you. Ma Yujie smiled. Zhuan sneered in his heart. With his current cultivation base, even a level 7 divine pill might not be useful to him. As for level 8 and level 9 divine pills, they weren't easy to buy. Even if he could buy them, they would be sold at a sky-high price. He might as well use this time to adjust his condition and prepare for the Divine Pill's secret realm. The two of them chatted while drinking wine. Ma Yujie was a talkative person, and every time he would intentionally or unintentionally bring up the topic of the space-time quicksand river. Ma Yujie always felt that he had missed out on the space-time quicksand river. Maybe there was really something good in the space-time quicksand river. Zhuan answered smoothly. Although he brought up the topic of the space-time quicksand river, he didn't mention the important things. He only talked about some unimportant things. Ma Yujie knew that if he continued, Zhuan wouldn't reveal the real information about the space-time quicksand river. Therefore, he didn't talk too much about it. Suddenly, a commotion in front of the restaurant attracted Zhuan and Ma Yujie's attention. The two of them looked over and saw more than 10 people walking towards the entrance of the restaurant. These dozen or so people were all outstanding beauties. Every single one of them was extremely beautiful. One of them was extremely beautiful. Although she wasn't at the front of the group, her appearance immediately attracted the attention of countless people. Zhuan also looked over. Then he was stunned. This beautiful woman was no stranger to him. It was actually Yao Xiangjuan. Next to Yao Xiangjuan was Zhu Rui. In front of Yao Xiangjuan was a woman with a strong aura. This woman had a graceful figure and a graceful bearing. Unfortunately, her face was covered by a light veil. Of course, it could be seen from this woman's figure that she was definitely a stunning woman. Moreover, she was older than the woman behind her. It's Palace Master Jing Yun of the Six Desires Palace. I always thought it was a rumor. I thought that an expert like Palace Master Jing Yun wouldn't come to a mere pill furnace star field. I didn't expect it to be true. Who is that beautiful woman? I've never seen such a beautiful woman before. In an instant, the quiet restaurant became a lot noisier. Most of the gazes fell on Palace Master Jing Yun and Yao Xiangjuan, who had their faces covered by a veil. Zhuan glanced at Yao Xiangjuan, then his gaze fell on Palace Master Jing Yun. Palace Master Jing Yun's figure was graceful and extremely hot. It was definitely the most perfect figure Zhuan had ever seen. It was just that Palace Master Jing Yun's eyes were closed, like a blind person. Because Zhuan and Ma Yujie's location was extremely remote, and Zhuan had set up a simple camouflage in front of them, as long as Yao Xiangjuan didn't deliberately pay attention to them, she wouldn't notice Zhuan. Is this Palace Master Jing Yun? I've heard that the Six Desires Palace has 6 palace masters. I wonder if Brother Ma knows about this? Zhuan played with the wine cup in his hand and said casually. Ma Yujie nodded and said, yes, the Six Desires Palace is much more terrifying than the Great Brahma Palace. In front of the Six Desires Palace, the Great Brahma Palace is just a pile of shit. Zhuan looked at Ma Yujie with some amusement. This guy's analogy was indeed appropriate. The Great Brahma Palace was indeed a little weak, or rather, the entire Great Brahma domain was too weak. The Six Desires Palace is divided into 6 palaces according to the 6 desires of the 7 emotions and 6 desires. They are the Desire Palace, 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 and the Desire Palace. These 6 palaces are respectively controlled by 6 palace masters. The strongest among them is the Desire Palace. Chapter 2358. Desire Palace, the 2 extremities of life and death, was the 3rd stage of the 9 steps of the void sky. It was only 1 step away from the Tao confirmation. Jing Yun is the palace master of the Desire Palace. The disciples of the Desire Palace are all lunatics who have abandoned their sight. In their opinion, the desire to see is the greatest sin in the world. Therefore, the disciples who enter the Desire Palace will self-destruct their eyes to express their determination to enter the Desire Palace, Ma Yujie said with slight disgust. Zhuan revealed a strange expression instead. Only now did he notice that amongst these 10+ people, besides Yao Xiangjuan and Zhu Rui, the others were all like Jing Yun, with their eyes closed. Zhuan was a little speechless. It was the first time he had seen such a rule. To join the Desire Palace, one had to self-destruct their eyes. Even the palace master of the Desire Palace was blind. Wasn't this a blind force? Brother Zhua, don't underestimate them. Although the disciples of the Desire Palace self-destruct their eyes, their souls are extremely powerful. This is the benefit of self-destructing their eyes and cultivating the Desire Palace's cultivation method, Ma Yujie said again. At this moment, the owner of the restaurant greeted them with great enthusiasm. Under Jing Yun's request, the owner arranged the most luxurious private room. Palace Master Jing Yun, long time no see. How have you been? Just as Jing Yun's group was about to follow the shop owner to the private room, a thunderous voice suddenly resounded, causing many people's bodies to tremble. Then, at the entrance of the restaurant, another group walked in. The person in the lead was a tall man with a face full of scars. However, although the man didn't deliberately show his aura, the pressure that faintly revealed that this man was by no means a simple person. When this group of people walked into the restaurant, it caused an uproar in the crowd. Clearly, many people in the surroundings recognized the origin of this group of people. Zhuan's gaze fell on a handsome young man beside the tall man, and the corner of his mouth revealed a trace of a sneer. Jun was no stranger to this handsome young man. It was Ancestor Lu, who he met on the second island of the trial space. It seemed like Ancestor Lu had also left the trial space through the exit Jun had opened. As for the origin of this group of people, Jun did not need to guess to know that it should be Shrine Lu. The tall man beside Ancestor Lu should be the Lu Haotian that Jun had heard about before. This Lu Haotian is very strong. He is also a 9 steps Void Sky powerhouse. He is an expert on the same level as Palace Master Jing Yun. Palace Lord Jing Yun slowly turned around. Although her eyes were closed, it was as if she was staring at someone. It gave people a strange feeling. LV Haotian, long time no see. Looks like your improvement these few years of closed-door seclusion isn't small, to actually already reach the life comprehension realm. Palace Lord Jing Yun replied indifferently. Lu Haotian smiled slightly and said, that was also this Lu's luck being good, so I broke through by a fluke. Alright, I forgot to introduce you. This is my son, Ancestor Lu. Palace Master, this should be your first time meeting him. Ancestor Lu, who was standing beside Lu Haotian, hurriedly stepped forward and saluted. His gaze involuntarily fell on Yao Xiangjuan, revealing a blazing gaze. Like father, like son. If Palace Master Lu doesn't have anything else, we'll go up first. Palace Lord Jing Yun said rather perfunctorily. Lu Haotian didn't reveal any embarrassment. Instead, he cupped his fists and said, Palace Lord Jing Yun, I have a piece of information here that might interest you. Not interested. Palace Lord Jing Yun said coldly. Yao Xiangjuan, who was standing beside Palace Lord Jing Yun, seemed to have guessed something. Her beautiful eyes shrank, and she immediately said to Palace Lord Jing Yun, Martial Aunt Jing Yun, let's go up first. If there's really something, we'll talk later. Jing Yun nodded, turned around and walked towards the private room upstairs. Palace Lord Jing Yun, could it be that you're also not interested in the space-time temple? When Palace Lord Jing Yun just walked up the stairs, Lu Haotian's voice transmission already echoed in Jing Yun's mind. Jing Yun's figure trembled. She turned around and couldn't help but say, is this true? You have clues? Yao Xiangjuan's pretty face changed greatly. She knew that Lu Haotian should have secretly transmitted to Jing Yun. But now she was helpless. With Lu Haotian here, the matter of the space-time key could not be concealed. Thinking that Zhuan was likely to be wanted by Shrine Lu and Six Desires Palace, Yao Xiangjuan's heart was in a mess. Zhuan, who was sitting in a remote corner, had a gloomy expression. He wasn't a fool. The information that Lu Haotian wanted to give Jing Yun was probably related to the space-time key. Lu Haotian knew that Jun was just a rogue cultivator. Moreover, he had obtained the space-time key and successfully passed the trial. Lu Haotian definitely wouldn't hide such an important matter from Ancestor Lu. Zhuan wasn't particularly afraid of Shrine Lu. He was just afraid that Six Desires Palace would want to arrest him because of the space-time key. The power of Six Desires Palace was much more terrifying than that of Shrine Lu. Moreover, its influence spread throughout the entire Six Desires heavenly domain. If Six Desires Palace wanted him, it would be difficult for Zhuan to move an inch in the Six Desires heavenly domain. Of course, Zhuan still overestimated himself. According to Ancestor Lu's description, Zhuan was just a rogue cultivator with no background. His cultivation was only at the Void Sky 7th step. Not to mention Six Desires Palace, even Shrine Lu wouldn't pay much attention to such a rogue cultivator. Of course, because Zhuan had the space-time key, these two forces would definitely act in secret. After all, if the space-time key was exposed, it wouldn't be a good thing. Other forces would definitely intervene. In order to avoid this kind of thing, Lu Haotian and Jing Yun would definitely discuss it in secret. Lu Haotian saw that he had aroused Jing Yun's interest. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly and he said, Palace Master Jing Yun, I won't talk about this kind of thing. If you want to know the specific situation, why don't we go into a private room? Palace Master Jing Yun thought for a while, nodded, and immediately called the innkeeper and said, open a private room for the two of us. The original private room is for my disciple. The innkeeper hurriedly nodded and bowed, and soon opened 2 private rooms. Palace Master Jingyun, I see that your private room is very big. Why don't you let my disciple and your disciple go in together? Lu Haotian said with a smile. Palace Master Jingyun responded coldly, I'm sorry, Palace Master Lu. You'd better open a private room for your disciple. After saying that, Palace Master Jingyun took the lead and went upstairs, followed by more than 10 disciples behind her. Chapter 2359. Killing Ancestor Lu. As soon as LV Haoyan and Palace Master Jingyun entered the private room, they set up layers of restrictions around it. Without their permission, no one from the outside could enter the private room, let alone spy on what was happening inside. Of course, Palace Master Jingyun also set up an anti-blocking restriction just in case. She also wanted to prevent LV Haoyan from cheating and transmitting information to the outside world. Although LV Haoyan was a little unhappy with the anti-blocking restriction set up by Palace Master Jingyun, he did not say anything. The space-time key was indeed more important. After all, it was related to the space-time temple. It was said that the space-time master was a Tao affirmation expert. If they could find the space-time temple, it would be very useful to them. Just as LV Haoyan and Palace Master Jingyun were secretly discussing the whereabouts of the space-time key and reached an agreement on this matter, the female disciples of Six Desires Palace had already gone upstairs one after another. However, Yao Xiangjuan did not follow the other female disciples. Instead, she came before Ancestor Lu with her beautiful eyes filled with anger. Ancestor Lu smiled at the beautiful woman in front of him. Just as he was about to speak, a jade-like hand suddenly swept over and a deep red palm print appeared on his face. The crisp sound of a slap rang out continuously in the restaurant. Everyone in the restaurant trembled when they heard it. Ancestor Lu was LV Haoyan's son and the next successor of His Highness God Lu. He was actually slapped in the face in public. This was a great loss of face. Ancestor Lu was stunned at first, then his face turned red with anger. He stared at the beautiful woman in front of him, but in the end, he did not make a move. Miss Yao, what's the use of being angry? Zhuowen will not be able to escape. You will be powerless to do anything about what will happen next. Ancestor Lu's eyes revealed a trace of scarlet. Yao Xiangjuan's attitude toward Zhuowen had made Ancestor Lu extremely angry. Moreover, what made him even more angry was that Zhuowen had stolen his limelight everywhere in the training space. Therefore, the jealous Ancestor Lu immediately told LV Haoyan everything that had happened in the space-time river of quicksand after returning to Shrine Lu. Lu Haotian was pleasantly surprised that his son had finally returned. He was also shocked by the news that his son had brought back. He never expected that there would be a space-time divine key hidden in the river of space-time quicksand. Furthermore, the space-time divine key had been obtained by an itinerant cultivator. If a high-level disciple of Six Desires Palace like Yao Xiangjuan obtained it, LV Haoyan would still be wary. However, if it was just a rogue cultivator, he really had no scruples. Of course, the influence of Lu Shen Temple was limited, and the Six Desires heavenly domain was vast. If the rogue cultivator escaped, it would be difficult for Lu Haoyan to find him. Moreover, according to Patriarch Lu's suggestion, that itinerant cultivator had a good relationship with Yao Xiangjuan. This time, they had met the people from Six Desires Palace in the Pill Furnace Star Zone. Lu Hao's plan was to cooperate with Palatial Master Jingyun. It would be best if he could get some information about the rogue cultivator from Yao Xiangjuan. That way, he wouldn't have to search for a needle in a haystack. As long as they had the clues, Lu Shen Hall and Six Desires Palace would be able to find the rogue cultivator. Yao Xiangjuan was so angry that she was trembling, but her heart was extremely flustered. She knew very well that Zhuan was in the Pill Furnace Star Zone and was about to enter the Divine Pill's secret realm. If Zhuan was recognized by Patriarch Lu, it would really be difficult for him to escape. Patriarch Lu looked at Yao Xiangjuan indifferently, especially when he saw the latter's shocked and angry expression. His heart was full of pleasure, but of course, there was also jealousy in this pleasure. The more Yao Xiangjuan cared about the rogue cultivator, the more jealous he was. He's called Zhuan. Brother Zhua, there seems to be someone with the same name as you. From this guy's tone, It seems that the person with the same name as you is going to be in trouble. In the corner, Ma Yujie smiled slightly and immediately turned to look at Chun. When he found that Zhuowen's face was not looking good, Ma Yujie showed a surprised look and said, "Brother Zhuo, is this guy talking about you? How did you provoke the young master of Lu Shen Temple? Lu Shen Temple is not to be trifled with." The corners of Zhuo Wen's mouth curled into a sneer as he looked coldly at Ancestor Lu, who was not far away. Speaking of which, he was the one who saved Patriarch Lu. If it were not for him, Patriarch Lu would have died in the Thunderwing Taoye's lair. However, Patriarch Lu obviously did not care about Zhuo Wen's kindness at all. Instead, he bit the hand that fed him. "Brother Ma, if I kill Patriarch Lu, do you think I can escape?" Zhuon suddenly looked at Ma Yujie and asked. Ma Yujie smiled and said, "Palace Master Jing Yun and Lu Haoyan are now in the box and have set up an anti-shielding restriction. You have plenty of time to kill Patriarch Lu." Zhuon nodded and slowly stood up. He did not doubt Ma Yujie's words because this guy was a level 9 Divine Array Master. Basically, the restriction present could not escape Ma Yujie's prying eyes. Moreover, even if Ma Yujie lied to him, Nguyen could drag him down with him. When the time came, he could just say that this guy also had the space-time key. Junior Sister Yao, that Zhuo Wen is merely a loose cultivator without any background. However, he obtained something that he should not have. If Junior Sister Yao is able to reveal some information about that shameless loose cultivator, Patriarch Lu's eyes were full of pride. He glanced sideways at Yao Xiangjuan, who was trembling with anger, and felt even more pleased. Just as he was about to continue, a gust of wind suddenly swept over. Patriarch Lu's expression changed slightly as an ominous premonition swept through his heart. By the time he reacted, a palm had already appeared in front of him and ruthlessly slapped him several times in front of his eyes. Every slap was as loud as thunder, and Patriarch Lu's cheeks were swollen. His whole body was like a spinning top, spinning rapidly in the air, and then heavily smashing into the ground, creating a huge deep pit. Patriarch Lu roared angrily. A terrifying aura suddenly erupted from his body, and anger filled his heart. However, before he could get up, a swift and fierce kick swept over and landed heavily on Ancestor Lu's chest. Patriarch Lu was kicked away like a piece of trash in front of everyone's eyes. He fell directly outside the restaurant. The moment Patriarch Lu flew out, a huge phagocytosis fell from the sky and heavily smashed into his body. The power of phagocytosis was different from before. Its power was too terrifying, especially after fusing with the Dao fruit. Patriarch Lu only had time to scream before he was drowned by the phagocytosis. Then, without any signs of life, he was directly smashed into meat paste by the phagocytosis. The power of the Taoist rhyme on the surface of the phagocytosis annihilated Patriarch Lu's body and soul. Chapter 2360. Provoking Lu's Shrine. In just an instant, everyone in the restaurant fell into a daze. Everyone stared blankly at the scene of Ancestor Lu's death. No one expected that the dignified young lord of the Lu Divine Temple would be killed in an instant under the eyes of the people of the Lu Divine Temple. Moreover, the temple master of the Lu Divine Temple, Lu Haoyan, was also present in this restaurant. Swish, swish, swish. The instant Ancestor Lu was killed, everyone's gaze gathered on the white-robed youth in front of them. It was this white-robed youth who had suddenly exploded and killed Ancestor Lu. Yao Xiangjuan's beautiful eyes also turned slightly as her attention fell on the white-robed youth. When she saw the white-robed youth's true appearance, her cherry lips parted slightly, revealing a pleasantly surprised expression. "Juan," Yao Xiangjuan muttered in a low voice. "You dare to kill young master? Kill him." At this moment, the Lu Shrine's members also recovered from the shock of Ancestor Lu's death. An old man roared with his hair and beard fluttering in the wind. He took a step forward and attacked Juan. More than a dozen people from Lu Shrine followed behind the old man and glared at Juan. If looks could kill, their gazes would have killed Juan 1,000 times over. Juan's gaze turned solemn. The old man leading the group was very strong. He was a half-step void sky 9th step expert. Apart from him, there were also 2 experts at the 8th step void sky 8th step. The rest were all below the 8th step void sky 8th step. With a wave of his sleeve, Yuan summoned the Zhonglan's secret domain and summoned 3 people from the Zhonglan's secret domain. These 3 people were the 3 slaves Yuan had previously taken in, Qin Changxing, Di Ling, and Zhang Jiqing. The 3 of them were all at the 8th step void sky 8th step, and the one with the highest cultivation was Qin Changxing. He was originally in existence on the same level as the Cosmos Sect's ancestor, and his cultivation had reached the peak of the 8th step void sky 8th step. During this period of time, he had basically stayed in the Zhonglan's secret realm to cultivate. He had also made some progress, and was already on his way to the half-step illusory sky 9th step. Moreover, in order to help the 3 of them improve their cultivation faster, Yuan even took out a portion of the heavenly Tao blood for them to comprehend. He had indeed achieved great results. Although Qin Changxing had yet to reach the 9th step of the half-step void sky realm, his strength was much stronger than before. Although he still wasn't a match for a half-step void sky realm expert, at least he wasn't completely defenseless. King's Spirit and Zhang Jiqing's improvements were obvious too. King's Spirit had reached the later stages of Virtual Sky 8 levels, and Zhang Jiqing had reached the middle stages of Virtual Sky 8 levels. Qin Changxing, stop that old man. As soon as the 3 servants appeared, Yuan immediately gave them orders. Yuan even pointed at the half-step void sky 9th ascension old man and said to Qin Changxing. When Qin Changxing saw the old man, his face immediately turned green. This was a half-step void sky 9th step expert. How could he be a match for such an expert? Don't worry, you just need to delay this old man for a while. Once I've dealt with the others, I'll naturally come and help you. Yuan transmitted his voice to Qin Changxing. Hearing this, Qin Changxing calmed down a little. Ever since he knew that Yuan had created a space-time divine ability and almost killed Kuang Li from the Quicksand family, he revered his master even more. Boom! At this moment, the old man had already arrived in front of Yuan. He roared and suddenly sent a palm strike towards Yuan's face. Although Qin Changxing was scared witless, he didn't dare to disobey Yuan's orders. He raised his hand and sent a palm strike towards the old man. Boom! The 2 palms collided and a terrifying qi exploded. Yuan immediately took out a beast bone formation plate and set up a sturdy barrier around them so that the aftermath of the battle wouldn't spread too far. Qin Changxing groaned and a trace of blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. He gloomily looked at the old man in front of him who was only swaying. He knew that there was still a gap between him and a half-step void sky 9th step expert. A mere peak void sky 8th step expert can actually resist my attack. Not bad, but let's see how many times you can resist. The old man revealed an astonished expression. His right foot stepped on the air and like a burst of green smoke, he continued to rush over. The wind from his palm was like a hurricane, blasting towards Qin Changxing again. Qin Changxing had no choice but to continue dealing with the old man. In his heart, he hoped that Yuan would quickly come and help him. In the instant that Qin Changxing restrained the old man, Yuan took the King's Spirit and Zhang Jiqing and rushed towards the rest of the people from Shrine Lu. Originally, he planned to directly leave after killing Ancestor Lu. However, since Ma Yujia said that Palace Master Jing Yun and Lu Haoyan's box had an anti-blocking restriction, he wasn't worried that Lu Haoyan would hear the commotion here. In addition, Shrine Lu had already targeted him. Naturally, he couldn't sit still and wait for death. He had to first eliminate the people brought by Shrine Lu. The 2 peak void sky 8th step cultivators from Shrine Lu were a black-clothed youth and a white-clothed man. The 2 of them, one on the left and one on the right, led a group of people from Shrine Lu to attack Yuan. In particular, when the 2 men saw Yuan rushing towards them, they sneered with disdain. Yuan's cultivation was too low. He was only at void sky 7th step. Although Di Ling and Zhang Jiqing's cultivation was good, the gap between them and the 2 men wasn't small. In their eyes, this battle was simply one-sided. However, the 2 of them hated the fact that this bastard had actually killed their young lord. If this matter was known by their shrine master, they were afraid that they would be severely punished. Therefore, this time, they had to capture this murderer. Otherwise, it would be difficult to explain to Lu Haoyan. Leave these two to me. You two go deal with the others first. Zhuan ordered Zhang Jiqing and Di Ling, then rushed towards the black-clothed and white-clothed men alone. Originally, the two men thought that Zhuan would join forces with the other two to deal with them, but now that the white-clothed youth not only didn't do so, but also planned to rush towards them alone, the two men's eyes suddenly revealed a strange expression. Is this child crazy? He's rushing to die? The black-clothed man whispered in confusion. Since this child is courting death, we'll help him, he. The white-clothed man licked his lips, and a cruel look appeared in his eyes. He overtook the black-clothed man first and rushed towards Zhuan. His fist wrapped in the power of a landslide, fiercely smashing towards him. Zhuan's eyes were calm. Looking at the impatient white-clothed man, the corner of his mouth revealed a mocking smile. The moment the white-clothed man's fist came, Zhuan's whole body slowly disappeared in front of him. Heaven splitting, earth splitting. Chapter 2361. Cold-blooded slaughter. What's going on? Spatial laws? The white-robed man reacted quickly. He suddenly released a terrifying divine power, but he soon realized that the moment he released his divine power, it was as if time had reversed. He returned to the initial state of releasing his divine power. It's not just the law of space, there's also the law of time. No, this is the power of the law of space-time? How could a mere void sky seventh-step cultivator grasp the power of space-time laws? The white-robed man's eyes revealed a trace of fear. Generally speaking, the space-time law was a power that could only be grasped by cultivators above the void sky 8 steps. Even though he was at the peak of the 8 steps void sky, he only knew a little about the space-time law. However, this cultivator who was much weaker than him was able to grasp the space-time law so skillfully. This was too strange. Bang bang bang. Genesis Splitter was the last move in the Destruction Dao sword art. It was also the strongest move. Combined with the power of space-time law, the power of this move was much stronger than before. Terrifying space-time precepts continued to erupt from the white-clothed man's body. Then, the white-clothed man continued to scream as a bloody mist exploded from his body like fireworks. The white-robed man wanted to escape from the collapsed space-time, but every time he tried to flee, time and space would reset him to his original position, making his escape futile. He could only passively endure the terrifying power of the space-time precepts. It kept erupting in his body and wearing away at his life force. Save me! The white-robed man was finally terrified. He wailed at the black-robed man who had stopped halfway. But soon, his sorrowful cries came to an abrupt end. He was completely annihilated in the space-time law region. The black-clothed man witnessed this scene with his own eyes. It was as if a bucket of cold water had been poured over him. His hands and feet turned cold. He had never imagined that a mere void sky 7-step cultivator could be so powerful and even control the power of the space-time law. By the looks of it, the degree of mastery that this lad had over the space-time laws should have already reached the state of greater mastery. This was definitely not someone that they could afford to offend. Go! We have to inform the palace master first. The black-clothed man stepped on the air with his right foot and rushed up the restaurant. Unfortunately, he was quickly blocked by the beast bone array disc. This barrier was very sturdy. It would take at least 15 minutes to break it with brute force. But this 15 minutes was too long. With Zhuowen's speed, he could catch up in an instant. Die! Zhuowen's cold voice sounded as if the Grim Reaper was whispering into the black-clothed man's ear. The black-robed man suddenly turned around, holding a long spear in his hand. He suddenly stabbed out, and a burst of spear intent was like a snowstorm, violently rushing out. The black-robed man's spear was extremely powerful. It was enough to kill any cultivator below the peak of the void sky 8 steps. Unfortunately, his opponent was Zhuan, a cultivator who had mastered the power of space-time rules. The space-time law was a power above the starry sky law. The black-robed man's cultivation level was indeed higher than Zhuowen's, but he had only grasped the power of the starry sky law. The gap between the two of them had been narrowed imperceptibly by the space-time rules. Zhuowen's strength had even surpassed the man in black. Looking at the terrifying spear, Zhuowen faintly smiled. He held the sword in his right hand and suddenly raised it up. Suddenly, sword intent blasted out, and the surrounding space-time distorted. The terrifying spear seemed to have been reset to its original point. All the spear shadows disappeared, and even the long spear stopped in place. It was only a momentary pause, but Zhuowen slashed out with the king's sword in his hand once again. With one slash, sword chi swept out, transforming into a terrifying sword dragon that instantly swallowed the black-robed man. The sword dragon roared, and not long after it swallowed the black-robed man, it collapsed with a loud bang. The black-robed man who was swallowed completely disappeared along with the sword dragon. After Zhuowen cleanly dealt with the two cultivators, Zhang Jiqing and Di Ling's side was almost finished. At this point, except for the half-step Void Sky 9 steps old man, Zhuowen's group had basically killed all the people of Lu Shrine. Everyone in the restaurant fell into a daze. As early as Zhuowen's group started fighting, the cultivators in the restaurant had already hidden in a remote corner to watch the battle with great interest. They originally thought that this would be a very intense battle, but they didn't expect that the people of Lu Shrine would be so easily dealt with. At this moment, everyone's gaze towards the white-robed youth no longer held any contempt or disdain. They all knew that this youth, who only had a cultivation of Void Sky 7 steps on the surface, was actually extremely powerful. Otherwise, how could this child so easily kill two powerhouses at the peak of Void Sky 8 steps? Bang! Suddenly, a muffled groan sounded, and then a miserable voice descended from the sky, landing not far from Zhuowen's side. Zhuowen looked over and found that this miserable figure was none other than Chen Chongqing. "Master, I'm not that person's opponent," Chen Chongqing said rather shamefully. Yun shook his head and patted Chen Chongqing's shoulder, then raised his head to look at the angry old man. "Goddamn brat, you actually killed the people of Lu Shrine, you deserve to die." The old man saw the dozen or so corpses in the restaurant, including the black and white men, and his lungs were about to explode from anger. These were all elites of Lu Shrine, especially the black and white men. They were protectors of Lu Shrine, and their cultivations were at the peak of Void Sky 8 steps. They were important figures of Lu Shrine, but they were killed just like that. This was a great loss to Lu Shrine. "I even killed your young master, what's so surprising about killing a few of them?" Zhuowen sneered and looked at the old man provocatively. The old man was immediately enraged by Zhuowen's words. He shouted loudly and suddenly charged toward Zhuowen. A terrifying aura swept out, causing the surrounding barrier to shake violently. From this, it could be seen how powerful this old man was. Seeing the old man flip out, many cultivators in the restaurant retreated once again. This was a cultivator who had reached the 9th step of the virtual sky realm. If the barrier set up by Zhuowen was broken, then they would definitely bear the brunt of it. At that time, if they died in the aftermath of the battle, then it would be too sullen of a death. Yao Xiangjuan's beautiful eyes were filled with worry. She stared blankly at the white-clothed figure facing the old man alone. "Master, let's face the enemy together." Chen Chongqing struggled to stand up and said with a serious expression. Zhuowen smiled and waved his sleeve, summoning the Zhonglan's secret realm, and said, "The three of you return to the Zhonglan's secret realm first. Leave this old man to me." Chen Chongqing and the other two looked at each other. Although they were worried when they thought of the battle between Zhuowen and Kuang Li, the three of them felt relieved and entered the Zhonglan's secret realm one after another. Does this child actually plan to face a half-step Void Sky 9th step expert alone? This child is a bit arrogant. Since he has helpers, he should join forces. There's no chance of winning at all if he fights alone. In my opinion, this child is too arrogant. Let's see how this child deals with a half-step Void Sky 9th step cultivator. Chapter 2362. Annihilate half-step Void Sky 9th step. In a remote corner of the restaurant, Ma Yujie picked up his wine cup and drained it in one gulp. His gaze fell on Zhuowen with great interest. When Zhuowen decided to face the half-step Void Sky 9th step old man alone, Ma Yujie was also a little surprised. Although Zhuan had grasped the power of space-time law, the gap between him and a half-step void sky ninth step was much greater than a half-step void sky eighth step peak. Ma Yujie wasn't surprised that Zhuan could instantly kill two half-step void sky eighth step powerhouses. After all, Ma Yujie had experienced Zhuowen's strength before. However, it wouldn't be easy to kill this half-step void sky ninth step old man in front of him. He might even have to pay a price. Ma Yujie didn't say anything. He sat in the corner of the restaurant and silently watched the battle that was about to happen. You will pay for what you've done. The old man floated in the air. He suddenly clenched his hands and two long black sabers appeared in his hands. Powerful divine power circulated on the surface of each saber. Obviously, they weren't ordinary divine tools. Boom! The old man held the sabers in his hands. Suddenly, two saber lights blasted out and slammed into the barrier. Gotcha! Countless cracks appeared on the barrier formed by the beast bone array disc. It was on the verge of collapse. Zhuowen's expression changed slightly. His array Dao level was still somewhat lacking. This barrier could block an 8th step void sky 8th step cultivator, but it couldn't block an attack from a stronger cultivator. Zhuan felt a little helpless in his heart. He transmitted his voice to Ma Yujie in the corner. Brother Ma, help me set up a new barrier to trap this old man. I'll give you 50 time and space crystals each. Ma Yujie, who was sitting in the corner, played with the wine cup in his hand. He chuckled and said, 100 time and space crystals each. Otherwise, there's no need to talk. Zhuan sneered and said, in that case, forget it. I don't have to kill this old man. If I want to escape, this old man might not be able to catch up to me. Ma Yujie frowned slightly. He knew very well that Zhuowen's main purpose in arranging the barrier was to prevent the people from Lu Shen Temple from calling Lu Haotian. And the people from the Desire Palace were under the control of Yao Xiangjuan at this moment. They certainly wouldn't call Palace Master Jing Yun at this juncture. If this old man were to break the barrier now, the first thing he would do would not be to kill Zhuowen, but to call for Lu Haotian. Yun was not afraid of a half-step void sky 9th stage expert. However, if two life comprehension realm experts were added to the mix, Zhuowen knew that he would definitely have to flee and not fight. Deal! Ma Yujie hurriedly transmitted his voice. Then he jumped up from the corner of the hotel. With a wave of his sleeve, he threw out dozens of array discs. Ma Yujie's hands quickly formed a seal. Then, the dozens of array discs emitted a blazing white light that scattered in all directions. Outside Zhuowen's enchantment, another layer of enchantment was set up that was even stronger. Gotcha! Zhuowen's barrier finally shattered under the old man's attack, and the old man had already swept to the edge of the barrier. When he saw Ma Yujie, the fatty, suddenly take action and set up another barrier, his eyes cracked, and his anger overflowed. Damn it, you're courting death. The angry old man raised his black long saber with both hands and smashed it on the newly set barrier. Boom! Suddenly, sparks flew between the long saber and the barrier, and the old man's pupils shrank. He only felt that the two sabers had hit the hardest rock and were directly bounced back. The moment the old man retreated, a sword light instantly swept over and went straight for his neck. The old man quickly adjusted the boiling blood in his body and swung his hands back, heavily colliding with Zhuowen's king sword. The sound of gold and iron clashing was particularly harsh. Then, Zhuowen retreated dozens of steps, while the old man retreated more than 10 steps. The old man took a deep breath and looked at Zhuowen in shock. He didn't expect this guy to be able to force him to retreat in a head-on collision. At the same time, what shocked the old man even more was that the barrier set up by the fatty was actually so sturdy. His attack had no effect on the barrier at all. Instead, he was forced back by the rebounding force of the barrier. Just as the old man was lost in thought, the sound of breaking air rang out again. He knew that the young man in white had rushed over again. I'll kill you first and then inform the temple master. The old man snorted coldly. Holding the saber with both hands, he also rushed out and instantly engaged in a fierce battle with Yun. Boom, boom, boom. Saber light and sword shadows constantly flashed inside the barrier, which looked dazzling. The terrifying aftermath of the battle swept out like a hurricane, exploding in all directions. The battle between the two became more and more intense and terrifying. Just from the aftermath of the battle at the edge of the barrier, everyone could feel how terrifying and intense the battle was. Ma Yujia looked at the white-clothed young man who was evenly matched with the old man and muttered in a low voice, "This kid isn't simple. He's actually so strong that he can fight with a half-step ninth-step virtual sky expert to this extent. However, this kid is at a disadvantage. He should be defeated after 100 moves." Ma Yujia's eyes were indeed sharp. After Zhuowen and the old man exchanged 100 moves, the old man roared and attacked with both sabers, which contained a trace of Dao rhythm. Zhuowen was caught off guard and was smashed to the ground by this attack. He was in a sorry state. Fortunately, after soaking in the true dragon's blood, Zhuowen's physical body wasn't weaker than Devour's. Moreover, he wasn't unfamiliar with the heavenly Dao rhythm. Therefore, he didn't feel much when he was hit by the old man's saber. He only suffered a flesh wound. However, the old man didn't think so. Although Zhuowen had only suffered superficial wounds, his external injuries looked like they were badly mutilated, giving people the impression that he had been seriously injured. The old man laughed complacently and said, "You're overestimating yourself. Today, I'll let you die a quick death." After saying that, the old man kicked his right knee and fell from the sky, falling towards Jun. The Dao rhythm of the long saber in his hand circulated and emitted a terrifying aura. Anyone could see that this saber was aimed at taking Zhuowen's life. Zhuowen slowly stood up. He looked at the old man who was falling and took a deep breath. His right hand pointed at the void, and the power of the space-time law poured out like a vast ocean. Immediately after, Zhuowen's surroundings completely turned into an endless sea. Many cultivators around the restaurant were confused as they looked at the vast ocean that suddenly appeared around them. This ocean didn't look like an illusion. Instead, it looked real. Chapter 2363. Angry LV Haoyan, the old man suddenly unleashed an unprecedented amount of divine power, but it only allowed him to move slowly. A sense of helplessness rose from the bottom of his heart. The old man felt a deep sense of fear. A waning sun slowly rose from the sea behind Tun. As the sun slowly rose, the elder could not even move. Following this, waves of terrifying power exploded out from the elder's body. And as the sun rose higher and higher, this burst of power became more frequent. Boom, boom. Everyone could only see the old man constantly howling as a bloody mist erupted from his body. The blood mist grew thicker and thicker, instantly engulfing the old man's figure. In the end, not even his shadow could be seen. When the sun rose to its highest point, the old man was completely annihilated into nothingness and died. When the sun and the sea completely disappeared, the countless cultivators in the restaurant fell into shock and didn't speak for a long time. Ma Yujia looked at Zhuowen solemnly and thought to himself, "This guy actually created his own space-time god art. Is this guy a freak? No, I have to go to the river of space-time quicksand as well. After this trip to the Divine Pill Secret Land, I have to go there once." Ma Yujia regained his senses. Other than shock, there was also regret in his heart. He knew that Zhuowen must have comprehended this divine ability from the river of space-time quicksand. He was very confident in his perception. Since this Zhuowen could comprehend his own space-time sacred art, then he would be able to do the same after entering the space-time quicksand river. What he regretted was that he hadn't been able to enter the river of space-time quicksand and missed the opportunity to comprehend space-time divine abilities. However, it wasn't too late now. After he finished exploring the Divine Pill Secret Realm, he could go to the space-time river of quicksand. Jun immediately swallowed the heavenly domain starry sky essence the moment he cast the waning sun on the sea. Then he winked at Ma Yujia. The latter nodded. After removing the barrier, the two of them quickly left the restaurant. Yao Xiangjuan originally wanted to call out to Zhuowen, but she remembered that Zhuowen from Lushan Hall had killed people from Lushan Hall, and that her martial uncle would most likely join in the hunt for Zhuowen. In the end, she didn't stop Zhuowen. After Zhuowen and Ma Yujia dashed out into the distance and vanished, the numerous cultivators in the restaurant were in an uproar as they discussed animatedly. Of course, The most discussed thing was why didn't LV Haotian and Palace Master Jing Yun come out when the battle was so fierce? Shrine Lu must have sent a message to LV Haotian. But LV Haotian still didn't appear, which made everyone's imaginations. At this moment, the door's room. A people's. Everyone was familiar with these two figures. Weren't they Lu Haotian of Shrine Lu and Palace Master Jing Yun of Desire Palace? The two of them were chatting cheerfully, appearing to be leisurely and contented. This caused the crowd to reveal strange expressions. Palace Master Jing Yun, happy cooperation. LV Haotian couldn't help but laugh. Palace Master Jing Yun smiled and nodded. Obviously, the two of them were having a good chat in the room. However, when LV Haotian and Palace Master Jing Yun walked downstairs, they soon found that something was wrong. They found that the surrounding cultivators were looking at them strangely. What's going on? LV Haotian was about to speak, but his words soon stagnated because he had already seen the dozens of corpses lying on the ground in the restaurant. Especially when he saw Ancestor Lu's corpse, he felt as if he was struck by lightning and couldn't help but take a step back. But soon, LV Haotian quickly stepped forward and came to Ancestor Lu's corpse. He squatted down and began to repeatedly probe Ancestor Lu's aura with his divine sense. He found that Ancestor Lu had completely lost all signs of life. LV Haotian was silent for a moment. He immediately stood up, looked at Yao Xiangjuan and the other disciples of Desire Palace and hissed, "Who did it?" Yao Xiangjuan frowned slightly and didn't answer. Instead, a disciple of Desire Palace next to her came out and said, "It was a young man in white. He killed Ancestor Lu in a sneak attack, and then killed the rest of the people of Shrine Lu." Palace Master Jing Yun glanced at Ancestor Lu, and her heart was full of surprise. She didn't expect that someone would be so bold as to kill Ancestor Lu, the young master of Shrine Lu. It was too bold. Young man in white? Do you know that young man in white? LV Haotian's eyes were gloomy. Unfortunately, the disciple of Desire Palace shook her head, indicating that she didn't know the young man in white. "Do you have an image of that person?" LV Haotian asked coldly. The disciples of Desire Palace all shook their heads. They didn't have the habit of recording images. "Palace Master LV, this little one has it." Suddenly, a cultivator in the crowd quickly said. LV Haotian looked at the cultivator and said, "Give me the image, and I won't treat you unfairly." The man grinned and eagerly handed the crystal ball to LV Haotian. LV Haotian took the crystal ball and immediately began to check the image inside. When he found that the young man in white in the image killed Ancestor Lu in an instant and slaughtered the people of Shrine Lu, the killing intent in his eyes burst out like a vast ocean. It was extremely dazzling. "Zhuowen? It's this little bastard who dared to kill my son and the people of Shrine Lu. He's simply tired of living." LV Haotian's pupils shrank as he stared at the young man in white in the image. When Ancestor Lu told him about the space-time key, he also showed him Zhuowen's face, so he recognized Zhuowen at a glance. Originally, LV Haotian thought that Yun should be fleeing, but he didn't expect that he would come to the Pill Furnace Star Field and be so bold as to kill Ancestor Lu and many elites of Shrine Lu. He's Zhuowen? He's very strong, and he even created a space-time divine ability. Palace Master Jing Yun's eyes flashed with surprise. LV Haotian didn't block the image in the crystal ball, so Palace Master Jing Yun could clearly see Zhuowen's face. This time, she and LV Haotian were originally discussing the space-time key, which was obtained by Zhuowen. Originally, she didn't pay much attention to Zhuowen after knowing that he was only a 7th-step Void Sky Rogue cultivator, but now after seeing the image, she didn't dare to be careless. A mere 7th-step Void Sky Rogue cultivator could easily kill a peak 8th-step Void Sky Rogue cultivator and even kill a half-step 9th-step Void Sky Rogue cultivator with his space-time divine ability. Even the most powerful genius of Six Desires Palace couldn't do such a feat. Moreover, she also found that this rogue cultivator was not very old. He definitely cultivated for less than 1,000 years. At such a young age, he actually had the strength of an expert of the older generation. He was definitely a monster. Chapter 2364. Parting Ways, Temple Master Lu, My Benefits. After Lu Haoyan calmed down, the cultivator who offered the crystal ball looked at Lu Haoyan with a flattering smile, looking forward to the benefits promised by the latter. Die. Lu Haoyan's eyes turned red. He was already in a fit of anger, and this cultivator just had to provoke him. In a fit of anger, he directly smashed the cultivator into pieces with a palm strike. The poor cultivator's flattering smile didn't even fade before it was completely annihilated into nothingness. The surrounding people kept quiet out of fear, looking at the furious Lu Haoyan in horror. They didn't expect Lu Haoyan to break his promise, but they didn't dare to come out and criticize him. After all, Lu Haoyan was too powerful. They didn't dare to offend such a terrifying existence for unrelated people. Lu Haoyan came before Yao Xiangjuan and said, "Miss Yao, I heard from Ancestor Lu that you have a good relationship with Zhuan. Is Zhuan your friend?" Yao Xiangjuan raised her head, looked at Lu Haoyan indifferently and said, "I'm sorry, I don't know Zhuan at all. It's useless to ask me." The veins on Lu Haoyan's forehead bulged. He looked coldly at Yao Xiangjuan and growled, "Miss Yao, do you think you can talk to me so presumptuously just because you're a disciple of Six Desires Palace? Let me tell you, you'd better be sensible. Otherwise, I don't know what I'll do." Yao Xiangjuan's beautiful eyes narrowed. Lu Haoyan actually dared to threaten her in public. Palace Master Jingyun frowned and said coldly, "Temple Master Lu, you're threatening a disciple of Six Desires Palace in front of me. Are you looking down on me?" Lu Haoyan looked at Palace Master Jingyun and said coldly, "Palace Master Jingyun, Ancestor Lu wouldn't lie to me. Miss Yao definitely knows Zhuan. Otherwise, why would she just stand by and watch when Zhuan was fighting with our people?" Palace Master Jingyun sneered and said, "You mean to say that you want my people to die in Zhuan's hands?" Lu Haoyan's face stiffened. Anyone with a discerning eye could see that Zhuan wasn't a simple person. Even a half-step Void Sky ninth-step expert was killed by him. The people that Palace Master Jingyun brought were not much stronger than the people from Lu Shenhal. Since Lu Shenhal's people were completely annihilated by Zhuan, then Palace Master Jingyun's people would not be able to gain any benefits. Palace Master Jingyun, that's not what I meant. You should know what I mean. LV Haoyan said with an ugly expression. Palace Master Jingyun glanced at Lu Haoyan indifferently, then looked at Yao Xiangjuan and said with a smile, "Xiangjuan, is what Ancestor Lu said true? Are you friends with Zhuan?" Yao Xiangjuan's beautiful eyes flickered as she said, "Martial uncle, I've only met Zhuan once. I don't know him at all. Ancestor Lu must be making things up." Palace Master Jingyun nodded and didn't continue to ask. Although Yao Xiangjuan was a disciple of Six Desires Palace, her status was very special. She was the direct disciple of the Palace Master of Six Desires Palace. The Palace of Desire was the most powerful palace in the Six Desires Palace. It had very few disciples and the Palace Lord of the Palace of Desire was very protective. Therefore, Jingyun did not dare to force Yao Xiangjuan too much. After all, this would make Yao Xiangjuan unhappy. At that time, if Yao Xiangjuan went back and gossiped with the Palace Master of Six Desires Palace, it would be troublesome for her. "Palace Master Lu, that's it. I will help you keep an eye out for Zhuan. You should also keep an eye out for him. If you find any clues, you can inform me at any time. I will help you investigate." Palace Master Jingyun said indifferently. Lu Haoyan's face was gloomy. He knew that Jingyun didn't intend to continue to ask Yao Xiangjuan. This made him very unhappy. This time, his shrine Lu had suffered a great loss. Moreover, he had lost his own son. Since Jingyun couldn't even interrogate his disciple, Lu Haoyan's heart was clouded. In that case, this Lu will take his leave. Since this kid came to the Pill Furnace city of the Pill Furnace Star Field, I'm afraid he came for the Divine Pill Secret Realm. After Lu Haoyan finished speaking, he left the restaurant. The people of Shrine Lu being killed in the restaurant was a great humiliation to him. He couldn't stand the feeling of being pointed at behind his back. After Lu Haoyan left, the people in the restaurant also gradually dispersed. Palace Master Jingyun turned to look at Yao Xiangjuan and said, "Xiangjuan, now that there are no outsiders here, tell me the truth. Do you know Zhuan?" Is the space-time divine key with him? Yao Xiangjuan's eyes were calm. When Lu Haotian came to find Palace Master Jing Yun, she had already guessed what Lu Haotian wanted. Now that Palace Master Jing Yun knew about the space-time divine key, she didn't find it strange. Martial Ant, there is indeed a space-time divine key in the space-time quicksand river, and I was trapped there because of the space-time divine keys trial. Only those who pass the trial can obtain the space-time divine key and leave. Yao Xiangjuan suddenly said seriously, the one who passed the trial is indeed Zhuan, but because of this, he saved me and Ancestor Lu's life. I don't find it strange that Ancestor Lu is ungrateful, but I am a person who knows how to repay kindness. Martial Ant. If you want to deal with Zhuowen, Xiangjuan will not hesitate to stand by his side. If anything happens to Zhuowen, Xiangjuan, I will also suffer. Palace Master Jing Yun's beautiful eyes shrank. Yao Xiangjuan was threatening her face to face. If anything were to happen to Yao Xiangjuan while she was with her, the Palace Lord of the EU Palace would not let it go. Seeing Palace Master Jing Yun fall silent, Yao Xiangjuan said softly, Martial Ant Jing Yun, you should want to enter the space-time temple, right? But I heard that the space-time temple needs 3 space-time divine keys. 1 space-time divine key is useless. Right now, I just want to remind Martial Uncle that Zhuowen is not an ordinary person. Although he is a rogue cultivator, he was able to jump realms to kill a cultivator who had reached the 9th step of the void domain. He even created his own space-time god art. His strength far surpasses his peers. Martial Ant Jing Yun, do you really want to provoke such an existence who may become a supreme expert in the future? Just for a key that you don't use? I hope Martial Ant won't be used by Lu Haotian. After Yao Xiangjuan finished speaking, she left the restaurant. Palace Master Jing Yun frowned slightly. She looked at Yao Xiangjuan's back and sighed softly. She muttered, this little girl's words are reasonable. When the time comes, let's see how things go. In a secluded alley, it was dark and damp. 2 figures rushed to the alley like black lightning and finally stopped in the depths of the alley. The 2 figures, one fat and one thin, were sneakily groping around in the alley. Brother Zhua, I really didn't expect your strength to improve so quickly. It hasn't been long since we separated, but you already have the strength to kill a half-step void sky 9th step cultivator. You're really amazing. Ma Yujia wiggled his fat body in the dark alley and gave a thumbs up to the young man in white behind him. Brother Ma, here are 50 space-time crystals. Thank you for your help this time. Let's part ways here. Chapter 2365. Pill Tower. Ma Yujia looked at Zhuowen's back as he stroked his chin with his right hand and muttered, this guy is really anxious. It seems like he's afraid that I'll ask him about his space-time divine ability. After a short pause, Ma Yujia also left the alley and fled in the opposite direction of Zhu. After Zhuowen left the alley, he changed his appearance, and even his aura completely changed. After killing Ancestor Lu and so many people from the Lu Shrine, Lu Haotian would definitely fly into a rage. He killed Ancestor Lu and his group in front of so many people. Zhuowen didn't believe that no one recorded it with a crystal ball. As long as Lu Haotian saw the image in the crystal ball, he would be able to quickly guess that it was Zhuowen who did it. Therefore, to be on the safe side, he naturally changed his appearance. Otherwise, it would be troublesome if he was recognized. Zhuowen casually chose an inn. After getting a room, he entered seclusion. There were still 3 days before the Divine Pill secret domain would open. According to Ma Yujie, 3 days later, he would need to gather at the Pill Tower with his quota jade card. At that time, the Pill Tower's people would use their alchemic fire to open the Divine Pill secret domain. Zhuowen summoned the black-clothed Zhuowen and looked at him with bright eyes. At this moment, the wind disaster aura on the black-clothed Zhuowen was extremely dense. Even though the black-clothed Zhuowen was trying his best to suppress it, Zhuowen's main body could still feel the wind disaster that was about to erupt from the black-clothed Zhuowen. The black-clothed Zhuowen had already survived 6 wind disasters in the space-time river of quicksand. Now, a lot of time had passed, and the black-clothed Zhuowen had accumulated 2 more wind disasters. If the clone released the wind disaster aura this time, There would be 2 wind disasters stacked together. The wind disasters of the 3 extremes true god were already very terrifying. The 2 wind disasters this time would be even more terrifying. In fact, Yuan was worried that the black-clothed Zhuowen's 9th wind disaster was about to arrive. The 3 disasters true god's wind disasters were very regular. The 1st, 9th, 14th, and 19th wind disasters were considered a threshold. Originally, the 7th and 8th wind disasters were suppressed by the black-clothed Zhuowen, but now, the 9th wind disaster was about to arrive. Adding the 9th wind disaster, the power of the wind disaster would probably reach an unprecedented level. Zhuowen sighed in his heart. He had always let the black-clothed Zhuowen cultivate freely, but he didn't expect the clone to cultivate so fast. Unknowingly, the clone had already accumulated the 9th wind disaster. Now, Yuan was a true god's will. If the 9th wind disaster also appeared, how would he smoothly pass it? I can only take one step at a time. I wonder if there are any divine pills that can reduce the disaster? Zhuo Wen's eyes lit up. This pill furnace city was the core of the pill furnace star field. There were many different types of god pills here. Perhaps he could find a god pill that could reduce the disaster. Thinking of this, Zhuowen immediately stood up and left the inn. Before leaving the inn, he asked the shopkeeper about the biggest place to sell god pills in Pill Furnace City. He found out that there was only one place to sell god pills in Pill Furnace City. That was the Pill Tower. The Pill Tower was divided into 10 levels. The first 9 levels sold god pills from level 1 to level 9. The 10th level was the core of the Pill Tower, and there were many elders of the Pill Tower guarding the pill fire above the 10th level. Of course, not all of the god pills in the Pill Tower belonged to the Pill Tower. Most of them were sold by the alchemists of the Pill Furnace Star Field. These alchemists sold god pills in the Pill Tower, and they had to pay the Pill Tower a certain amount of rent. However, it was said that the 8th and 9th levels were controlled by the Pill Tower. The level 8 and level 9 god pills were sold by the Pill Tower. Of course, not everyone could enter the 8th and 9th levels. One had to have the Pill Tower's token to enter, or be recommended by others. After asking around, Yuan directly walked towards the Pill Tower. After a while, Yuan arrived in front of the Pill Tower. The Pill Tower was extremely lively, and there were people coming and going. He didn't receive any obstructions when he entered the first level. The Pill Tower was very big, and there were countless people inside. However, Yuan didn't feel that it was crowded. This showed how big the Pill Tower was. On the first level, there were white jade platforms. In front of the platforms stood alchemists in loose robes. On the platforms, there were many brocade boxes. God pills lay quietly in the brocade boxes, and the names of the god pills were written on the front of the brocade boxes. Zhuowen casually walked around, and he immediately lost interest. Just as the shopkeeper said, the first level was basically filled with level 1 god pills. They were useless to Zhuowen. However, Yuan remembered that the true god 3 disasters disaster didn't need to be of a high level, so he casually walked to the front of a platform. On this platform was an old man in a white robe. When he saw Zhuowen walk over, he only nodded indifferently. He didn't have any intention of soliciting or introducing him. "Friend, I want to ask what kind of god pill can weaken the wind disaster of the true god 3 disasters?" Zhuowen asked tentatively. The white-robed old man raised his head and sized up Zhuowen. When he discovered that Zhuowen was a powerful void sky expert, he asked doubtfully, "You don't seem to need this thing, right?" "My junior needs it." Zhuowen casually made up a lie. The white-robed old man nodded and pointed at a brocade box. "If you want to weaken the wind disaster, use this wind avoidance pill. This god pill can greatly weaken the power of the wind disaster. It's very suitable for the true god 3 disasters." Zhuowen looked at the wind avoidance pill and discovered that it was also a level 1 god pill. He creased his eyebrows and revealed a hesitant expression. It should be known that his doppelganger wasn't an ordinary true god 3 disasters, but a true god 3 disasters who had already become a true god of thunder and fire. The wind disaster was also countless times stronger than an ordinary true god 3 disasters. It was a wind disaster that even a void sky 8th level cultivator feared. Zhuan wasn't sure if a mere level 1 god pill could really weaken the power of the wind disaster of his doppelganger. But, you don't believe me? When the white-robed old man saw Zhuan creasing his eyebrows, he couldn't help but ask unhappily. Zhuan smiled apologetically and said, "My junior isn't an ordinary true god 3 disasters. He is a cultivator who has advanced to real god extreme thunder and real god extreme fire at the same time. Now, he is advancing to real god extreme wind, so..." At first, the white-robed old man didn't care. However, the moment he heard what Zhuan said, his turbid eyes narrowed into slits. He sized up Zhuan and said after a long while, "Your junior is planning to advance to real god 3 extremes?" Zhuan touched the back of his head and said, "That's indeed the case." After the white-robed old man confirmed what Zhuan said, he looked around and immediately sent a message to Zhuan carefully. "If what you said is true, I will bring you to see someone who can help your junior." Chapter 2366. Heavenly Fragrance Pill. The white-robed elder's face reddened as he hurriedly said, "This wind avoidance pill is only effective on ordinary true gods 3 disasters. It shouldn't have any effect on a junior like you." Zhuan nodded and cupped his fists. "Thank you for your help, friend." Although Zhuan said that, he was actually quite afraid. This elder's expression couldn't escape his eyes. Originally, this elder didn't care about him, but now that he heard about True God 3 extremes, he immediately became so enthusiastic. Of course, Zhuan wasn't afraid. This elder's cultivation wasn't high. At most, he was only at Virtual Sky 1. He really wasn't afraid of what tricks this guy could play. The white-robed elder put away the high platform and then led Zhuan to the top of the pill pagoda. The white-robed elder led Zhuan up floor by floor. They passed through the 2nd floor, the 3rd floor, and all the way to the 7th floor. As they kept going up, Zhuan realized that the higher they went, the fewer people there were. Of course, the grade of the divine pills was also higher. The white-robed elder stopped and looked at Zhuan with a smile. "Friend, I still haven't asked for your name." "Long Wen." Zhuan replied indifferently. The white-robed elder nodded and said, "I'm Ping Peng. Others call me Elder Peng. You can also call me Elder Peng. Now, I have to go up and ask for instructions. When the time comes, I'll come down to find you." "You're from the Pill Tower?" Zhuan looked at the white-robed old man with a low cultivation base in astonishment. The white-robed elder's eyes revealed a trace of sadness. He waved his hand and said, "How can I enter the Pill Pagoda's eyes? It's just that there's an acquaintance in the Pill Pagoda. This acquaintance can help you with your junior's matter." When the white-robed elder was about to turn and walk up, Zhuan said, "Elder Peng, we've only met by chance. Why are you helping me? And you're going to find an acquaintance?" The white-robed old man turned around and said earnestly, "Brother Long, please believe me. I definitely don't have any bad intentions, nor have I ever thought of harming you. It's just that True God Sanji is very important to this acquaintance of mine. He once said that if there's any news about this kind of person, I must definitely tell him." So, Zhuan frowned slightly. Although he didn't quite believe it, the sincerity in the old man's eyes didn't seem to be fake. "Go, I'll wait for you here," Zhuan said indifferently. "Many thanks." The white-robed old man expressed his gratitude and headed to the 8th floor. Furthermore, Zhuan discovered that there were already people guarding the staircase from the 8th floor onwards. If one did not have the corresponding token or procedures, they would not be allowed to enter. Since he was bored waiting, Zhuan began to stroll around the 7th floor. The divine pills sold on the 7th floor were basically all level 7 divine pills, and there were even fewer people. However, most of them were Void Sky experts, so they were obviously experts who could afford level 7 divine pills. The Heavenly Fragrance Pill? Zhuan walked to the front of a rather solemn platform and discovered that there was only a brocade box on the platform. The words, "Heavenly Fragrance Pill," were written on the brocade box. Zhuan had heard of the Heavenly Fragrance Pill before. It was a level 7 divine pill, but it was extremely rare. Moreover, the Heavenly Fragrance Pill was usually used by female cultivators. It was basically impossible for male cultivators to use this kind of thing. The heavenly fragrance pill's function was to allow female cultivators to naturally emit a rich body fragrance. Moreover, this kind of body fragrance could also improve one's cultivation. Of course, the heavenly fragrance pill also had another important function, which was to allow female cultivators to continuously expel the toxins in their bodies after consuming it, causing their bodies and skin to become even more perfect. This thing could be said to be a fatal temptation to female cultivators. Everyone loved beauty, not to mention female cultivators who had a longer lifespan. They cared more about their appearance. There were even many female cultivators who were willing to spend most of their money on maintaining their appearance. As for the heavenly fragrance pill that could naturally emit a body fragrance that could improve one's cultivation and also maintain one's appearance, it was very popular among female cultivators. The one selling the heavenly fragrance pill on the platform was a beautiful female cultivator. It was clear that this female cultivator specialized in selling heavenly fragrance pills. There was only a single heavenly fragrance pill left on the platform, so it was clear that all the other heavenly fragrance pills had been sold and there was only this one left. Seeing the heavenly fragrance pill, Juan couldn't help thinking of Mu Chenxue. If he could buy this heavenly fragrance pill and give it to Chenxue, perhaps she would be very happy. Although Zhuan didn't have any news about Mu Chenxue, he knew that once he became stronger, he would charge into the Great Brahma Heavenly Palace. He knew that since Mu Chenxue had already come to the Great Brahma Heavenly Palace once, it meant that she had a grudge with the Great Brahma Heavenly Palace. Since it was like this, she would definitely come to the Great Brahma Heavenly Palace a second time. As long as he waited in the Great Brahma Heavenly Palace, he would definitely be able to meet Mu Chenxue. However, he wasn't strong enough now. If he went to the Great Brahma Heavenly Palace, he would probably be kicked out before he could even enter the door. When the time comes, I can give the heavenly fragrance pill to her, Zhuan muttered as he came to the front of the platform. How much is the heavenly fragrance pill? Zhuan asked. The female cultivator looked at Zhuan indifferently and said, 1,000,000 high-grade divine stones. Zhuan's gaze froze. Wasn't the price of the heavenly fragrance pill a little too expensive? Just one pill would cost 1,000,000 high-grade divine stones. If you think it's too expensive, please leave. Don't disturb my business. The female cultivator saw Zhuan's expression and her tone was rather impolite. Zhuan frowned slightly, but he didn't care too much. Instead, he threw a storage bag to the female cultivator and said, there are 1,000,000 high-grade divine stones in here. I'll buy the heavenly fragrance pill. The female cultivator tapped the storage bag and nodded. Zhuan picked up the heavenly fragrance pill. Wait. Suddenly, a clear female voice interrupted Zhuan's actions. Zhuan kept the heavenly fragrance pill, then turned around and saw two figures standing behind him. One of the two figures was a beautiful woman dressed coquettishly, while the other was a handsome young man dressed in a long robe. The two of them stood there like a golden boy and a jade girl. They were quite compatible. And the one who spoke just now was the coquettishly dressed woman. What is it? Zhuan unhurriedly kept the heavenly fragrance pill into his spirit ring and looked at the two of them indifferently. The beautiful woman watched as Zhuan kept the heavenly fragrance pill. Her brows furrowed slightly as she said, it just so happens that I need the heavenly fragrance pill too. Can you part with it and give it to me? Zhuan looked at the woman with amusement and said, sorry, I don't plan to sell the heavenly fragrance pill. The beautiful woman was rather displeased as she said, from the looks of it, you don't have a Tao companion. What's the use of buying the heavenly fragrance pill? Could it be that you want to use it yourself? How do you know that we have a Tao companion? And whether I have a Tao companion or not has nothing to do with you, right? Zhuan sneered. The beautiful woman's face immediately darkened. Clearly, she was very displeased with the attitude of this cultivator in front of her. Chapter 2367. Make things difficult, Gu Shan, don't get angry over some small fry. It's too degrading. Let me handle it. The handsome young man smiled at the beautiful woman. The beautiful woman blushed slightly and said sweetly, Ruan Jie, I knew you were the best. As long as you take action, you'll definitely succeed. Juan really couldn't stand watching the two of them being lovey-dovey and said indifferently, "Sorry, I don't agree to sell the heaven fragrance pill in my possession. It's useless no matter how much you pay." The handsome young man glanced at Juan and said with a mocking smile, "Oh, looks like you're very confident. You're just a nobody, yet you're so tough. I really admire you." As he spoke, the handsome young man turned around to look at the female cultivator on the high platform, and then he withdrew a flame command token and said, "Friend, the heavenly fragrance pill was something that we took a fancy to first, yet this fellow suddenly snatched it away from us, right?" The moment the female cultivator saw the flame token, a trace of fear and respect appeared in her beautiful eyes. She glanced at Juan and hurriedly lowered her head. "Sir, you're right. This person snatched our heaven fragrance pill away, and what's more hateful is that he didn't even pay. He's really too hateful. We should let the enforcers take him away." The handsome young man nodded with satisfaction and put away the flame token. Then he looked at Juan with a cold smile and said, "Friend, do you still want to monopolize the last heaven fragrance pill? I advise you to immediately take that thing out and give it to my Tao companion, then kneel on the ground and apologize to the two of us for your actions just now. Otherwise, the Pill Tower's enforcers won't be so reasonable." Juan silently looked at the handsome young man with a complacent expression, but he fell into deep thought. He noticed that the flame token this young man took out was the same as the white-robed old man's. It seemed like he was also from the Pill Tower. Moreover, this person was so fearless. He probably had some background in the Pill Tower. "Are you deaf? Didn't you hear what Ruanjie said? Hurry up and kneel down and give the heaven fragrance pill to me." The beautiful woman did not conceal the complacency in her eyes. She immediately came in front of Juan and pointed at Juan's nose. Unfortunately, just as the beautiful woman reached her hand in front of Juan's nose, her hand was immediately grabbed by Juan. "What do you want to do?" The beautiful woman was shocked and shouted, "Don't point your dirty finger at me." Juan exerted force with his right hand and twisted the beautiful woman's hand. Then he threw her away like a piece of trash. The handsome youth's expression was unsightly. He hugged the beautiful woman and glared at Tun. "How dare you? You actually dare to make a move in the Pill Tower? Where are the enforcers?" The commotion between Juan and the handsome young man immediately alarmed the other cultivators on the 7th floor. One by one, they cast their gazes over and looked over in surprise. When they saw the handsome young man, they all began to discuss spiritedly. From the surrounding discussions, Juan realized that the handsome young man's identity was not simple. The Pill Tower was originally managed by the 9 Great Elders. Because the Great Elder had suddenly passed away a few days ago, the Pill Tower now only had 8 elders. The handsome young man's name was Feng Ranjia. He was the only son of the Pill Tower's 7th elder. He was a spoiled brat. No one in the Pill Tower dared to provoke him. Dang dang dang. Just as Feng Ranjia finished speaking, the enforcers on the 7th floor rushed over. There were only 18 enforcers on the 7th floor, but each of them was at least at the 6th floor of the Void Sky Realm. The leader was at the peak of the 7th floor of the Void Sky Realm. When the old man in the lead saw Feng Ranjia, he revealed a look of surprise. Then he asked solemnly, "What happened?" Although the old enforcer said that, his gaze was extremely unfriendly as he looked at Juan. Anyone could see that it was indeed Juan who made the first move. Juan sighed softly in his heart. He did not expect that buying a heavenly fragrance pill would actually cause such unnecessary trouble. Juan was just about to explain what happened just now when Feng Ranjia interrupted. "Not only did this person forcefully snatch the heavenly fragrance pill we bought, he even flew into a rage out of humiliation and directly attacked in the Pill Tower. He is truly hateful. If this person is not captured, the heavens will not tolerate it." The old enforcer narrowed his eyes. Then he looked coldly at Juan and said, "Since that's the case, you should surrender now and save us the trouble of making a move." Juan silently looked at the enforcer leader and Feng Ranjia, who echoed each other. Especially when he saw the smug smile on Feng Ranjia's face, Juan felt even more displeased in his heart. "I've never been a troublemaker, but sometimes, things just have to provoke me. In that case, Don't blame me for being impolite. As he spoke, Zhuowen's right hand suddenly grabbed at Feng Ruanjie. You've got guts. The enforcer leader's pupils shrank. With a loud roar, he rushed toward Zhuowen. The other enforcers behind him also surrounded Zhuowen from all directions. Boom, boom, boom. Zhuowen sneered. His right hand that was reaching toward Feng Ruanjie changed direction and blasted toward the enforcers. The power of space-time law suddenly erupted. Instantly, more than 10 enforcers were instantly sent flying and smashed into the ground not far away. The enforcer leader was in an even more miserable state. He was directly slammed into the rock wall by Zhuowen's palm. For a moment, the 7th floor was dead silent. Everyone looked at this scene in shock. They clearly did not expect that someone would actually dare to cause trouble here and even hit enforcers. This was truly audacious. After all, this was the Pill Tower. You've got guts. Do you know what you're doing? Feng Ruanjie's pupils shrank. He looked at Zhuowen with some fear. He did not expect this white-clothed youth to be so fearless. He even dared to hit enforcers. Moreover, his cultivation was only at the early stage of the Void Sky 7th step. If even the enforcer leader was sent flying with a single slap, he was definitely not a match for this youth. Scram! Zhuowen said coldly. Feng Ruanjie's expression was unsightly. He did not even care about the beautiful woman. He ran toward the 8th floor in a panic. The beautiful woman, on the other hand, was in a daze. Especially when she saw Zhuowen looking at her, she ran away in a panic. After experiencing this incident, Zhuowen was in a bad mood. When he saw that the white-robed old man still had not come out, Zhuowen did not wait any longer. It was not that he could not resolve the matter of the wind disaster. Now that he was unhappy because of this matter, he really did not want to wait any longer. Thus, he walked down the stairs of the Pill Tower, planning to leave. However, when Zhuowen arrived at the first level of the Pill Pagoda and was about to walk out the door, a powerful restriction appeared at the door, blocking Zhuowen's path. Get the hell up here. You hit an enforcer and have no regard for the law. Do you think you can just walk away like this? A loud shout suddenly came from the top of the Pill Tower. It was like thunder in Zhuowen's mind. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.